Are we ready to go? All right, well, welcome. My name's Ian Hill. Welcome to Equip Ourselves to Save a Life. I have the tremendous honor and great pleasure of being the CEO of NGBN-TV. In a few minutes, we're going to kick off a first-of-its-kind training to equip you with all that you need to save a life. If someone you know or someone you love is having a mental health crisis that might be life-threatening. In a few seconds, I'll tell you a little bit more about NGBN, but let me tell you the simple premise of today. It's rooted in a truism that's universal, that the people closest to the problem are best suited to solve their problem. The people closest to the problem are best suited to solve their problem. What does that mean? That means that you care. That means that you're in proximity, that people you know and love, someone in your house, maybe a neighbor, maybe a coworker, maybe a friend. Well, you know them, you see what's going on. But do you really know what to listen for and what to look for? Do you know what to say or what to do? Well, what if you did know? What if you were equipped? We call you a first identifier, an individual who can identify the situation and in the moment with that proximity, if properly equipped, could change the outcome, the history of a moment. So that's the simple premise here. Take people closest to the problem, equip them with the tools, and we will immediately begin to save lives. This television network for men in their 40s, 50s, and 60s, NGBN-TV, we're just an emerging television network. We just started. We launched on January 29th. We serve a very narrow population of 40, 50, and 60-year-old men, middle-aged men, and those that love them. But did you know that that group is 70% more likely to succumb to suicide than any other segment of the population? We knew we had to do something. Even though we're just an upstart network, we had to do something. And this is that something, equip people with real tools. We're going to shout out really quick. We have a group of people. We have watch parties all over the country, in Charlotte, in Dallas, in Tulsa, in Princeton. We even got a big shout out to Felix in Kenya and Terry out there in South Africa. But we're going to go to a special watch party. I'm going to put my little earpiece in, and we're going to go to a special watch party with Brian Jodis, host of Pick Up the Six, one of the main people here at NGBN-TV. He's in a barber shop in North Carolina. Brian!
What's up, Ian? Good to see you, man.
Well, tell me, where are you and why are you in a barber shop?
I'm sitting in the chair, dude. I'm sitting in the barbershop chair right now. We're very fortunate. I'm in Cary, North Carolina.
Cary, North Carolina.
We've got a great group of F3 men that I'm looking at that are right across from me now that are here to watch this event and be a part of this, because these men step into the breach every morning to be around their brothers. But I got a great shop here called A Better Man's Barbershop in downtown Cary, NC. And just shout out to Steve and the whole crew, my man Trevor, who's here to let us in this morning. And I was telling them what we were doing, and Steve said, you should host it here. You should have a watch party here. Where better than a barbershop where men meet to talk about life? And so I'm literally sitting in a barbershop chair right now. We got a handful of guys that are here. We got coffee. We got shout out to my friends at Duck Donuts in Cary. They sent us 5 dozen donuts. So the guys can get all sugared up and get ourselves equipped, man. So we're ready to get into it.
Well, so let me do really quick, because we don't have much time, Brian. One of our top partners in creating change is F3. And we knew that if we were going to have a television network that was going to impact men in their 40s, 50s, and 60s, if we were going to reduce the suicide rate, we need to have on-the-ground partners like F3. Yeah. But will you do me a favor, give a quick explanation for those that aren't familiar with F3 and its mission?
Yeah, the mission of F3 is to plant, grow, and serve small workout groups for men for the invigoration of male community leadership. It's a men's fitness group, but really it's a men's leadership organization. Started in 2011, and the 3 F's stand for fitness, fellowship, and faith. We bring men together through these daily free boot camp style workouts. They then build fellowship and do things together. And the faith component for us is a belief that there's just something bigger than you out there, right? That you're part of something that's bigger than yourself. It's been instrumental in my life, and we've seen it change men's lives across the world. And we're excited to partner with NGBN to then, we got 3 priorities, right? Create content, build community, equip men. Well, F3 is going to be part of helping build community.
That's pretty amazing, Brian. Thank you for joining us. I know we have F3 people all over the world. And hey, if you're not a member of F3, if you'd like to be a part in what Brian just said resonated with you, you can actually go to NGBN-TV, scroll down to the middle of the website. It'll say connect with men in your area. Click that. It'll take you to a map of the world. You'll see dots all over it. That represents F3 groups. You can click one of those dots. It'll tell you where they meet and what day of the week and what time. And if you go and show up, they'll embrace you. They call it a circle of trust. So if you're looking for a men's group to connect with that's going to embrace you, support you, help you, then do me a favor. Go to the website, NGBN-TV, right there in the middle of the site, and you can connect with people like Brian and loving, caring men that'll come around you in a circle of trust. They call it locking shields, and they're best in class, and they will change your life. Brian, thank you for joining us.
Yep. Let me show these guys back there. Say what up,
hey,
fellas.
Boys. Look at that.
Look at that, Pete.
Love it.
There's a surly polar bear that just walked in the door.
There you go. All right, man. Take care.
See you guys.
Well, you know, we wouldn't be able to do something like this without incredible partners. And we have a representative of CARF International. They are the best-in-class accreditation organization. They work with all kinds of facilities and providers. And we have the chief medical officer here. He flew in from Tucson just to be here. Their partnership with us brings significant credibility, instant recognition, and their financial support, we couldn't do without it. So Doc Conley, will you come on up? Dr. Michael Conley, thank you, sir. Come on in. Let me get you
for having
going. I'm going to hold it, though.
Perfect.
Doc wants to take control.
Well, you know how it is.
So, Doc, tell us a little bit about CARF and what it does.
Well, CARF International is a health and human services organization. We are involved in quality improvement for health and human services organizations across the globe. We are on 5 continents. We have 64,000 clients associated with us. A lot of the work that we do is in behavioral health, and a lot of it has to do with reduction of suicide.
And when we first talked, we got on the phone, you were instantly supportive of this initiative. For all those people that are up early on a Saturday, what do you and CARF have to say to them?
Well, you know, suicide is a global public health problem right now. And if we don't address it, and we feel at CARF that we have a responsibility to address this issue head on, if we don't do that, things will not get better. And that is the important thing for us, and that's why we're here and why we support this network.
Yeah, well, thank you very much, Doc. We're going to talk to you later a little bit more, right? Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
Have a seat right there. We have another group that's supporting us that I want to bring on real quick. Mario from the National Veterans Foundation. Mario from the Natural Veterans Foundation. Come on in, Mario.
Hey, good morning,
how are you?
Good
morning, buddy.
I'm doing well.
So, Mario, really quick, National Veterans Foundation, you're involved in mental health with suicide reduction for veterans specifically.
Correct.
Tell us a little bit more about it.
So our Lifeline for Vets is the vet-to-vet service that we offer for all veterans to prevent any crisis management, suicide prevention. We're the longest or the first veteran hotline in existence now, 39 years. So our information service reps, they offer services for information, basic information, and resources to all veterans.
And so if someone wants to learn more, what's the website?
www.nvf.org.
NVF.org.
NVF.org.
I don't think you need the WW anymore.
Not anymore. Yeah, you're right.
NVF.org, Natural Veterans Foundation. We'll hear from them later on too. Thank you, buddy. Hey, when you're doing a live broadcast at 6 o'clock in the morning from Los Angeles, California, broadcasting all over the world, there's all kinds of little delays and stuff and things. But it's important to know that behind the scenes, we have an incredible production company, AC Productions. We've got Jenna back there. We got Vanessa over here. We got the guys ladies and gentlemen on the cameras here early in the morning to do one thing, equip you to save a life. When we come back from the commercial message and a little open, we're going to meet Craig and we're going to get started. So science tells us if you write it, read it, hear it, you're more likely to retain it. So quick, go get your phone out, get a notepad out, and get ready to take notes so that you're equipped to save a life. When we come back from these commercial messages, we'll get started. We'll be right back.
1 week after launching our exclusive sneak peek, NGBN-TV was live for 3 days of continuous coverage from Super Bowl 58 in Las Vegas.
NGBN-TV is live from Las Vegas for Super Bowl 58.
The one-of-a-kind streaming TV network for men in their 40s, 50s, and 60s was the conversation for the big game about men's mental health. And the world of athletes, celebrities, and influencers were on notice. But we're just getting started with new partnerships announced like the Team Nike 3-on-3 Championship and new platforms available to download the NGBN TV app. So, what are you waiting for? Download the app today from your favorite streaming device or check us out at NGBN.TV. This is NGBN TV.
Welcome to Family Farms, where our culinary journey is woven with passion, dedication, and a commitment to crafting the finest bacon-wrapped chicken, a timeless delicacy that has tantalized the taste buds since 1974. At Family Farms, we're more than just a traditional name. We've evolved into purveyors of gourmet delights. Join us on this flavorful adventure, where every bite tells a story of tradition, quality,
Well, welcome back to Equip Ourselves to Save a Life. My name's Ian Hill. I have the tremendous honor and great pleasure of being the CEO of NGBN-TV. We're the premier platform for men in their 40s, 50s, and 60s. We started before the hour to get things going, but this is more formal now. Today, we're here to do one thing: equip you to save the life. The premise is pretty simple. People closest to the problem affect change, because they're the best to solve the problem. You know somebody. You interact with them every day. They are struggling. But do you know what to listen for? Do you know what to look for? And do you know what to say? And do you know what to do? So that's what we're attempting to do here. We're attempting to equip you because you're the first identifier. You're the individual that sees and hears it. You're the individual that can intervene in the moment. So the premise: equip you so you can change the outcome. Equip you so you can help move someone back from the precipice. Equip you so you can save a life. We wouldn't be able to do this without the incredible support of our sponsors. So I want to call out a couple of them, and then we'll hear from one of them. First and Goal Project, Dave DeRocher, done some amazing stuff to assist us and help us. Thank you. Our good friends over at the Legion Hall, American Legion, Nick over at the American Legion in Newport Beach. It's the largest American Legion in the country. They're doing amazing work. Thank you, Nick. And we've got some exciting plans of what we're going to be doing with them. The National Veterans Foundation. National Veterans Foundation. They are literally saving the lives of vets every day. NVF.org, NVF.org, NVF.org. Check it out. And then Family Farms. You just saw a commercial there. Family Farms has been with us before we even launched. Think about that. A national sponsor that gave us money before we even started. And then finally, CARF International. CARF International is the premier accreditation organization in this space. They're the best in class, best in the world, and they are the most trusted. Today we have the chief medical officer for that organization has flown all the way in from Tucson to be with us here in LA. I'd like to give him a chance to say a few words. Dr. Conley, come on up. This is Dr. Mike Conley, medical professional, been all over the world, done all kinds of amazing work, and now you're the chief medical officer for CARF. Why are you involved, and why has the organization gotten behind this?
Well, thank you. And the work that this organization is doing is great. Really, the thing that I want to get across is that all the people out here watching, spending their time learning how to do this, you are the people who matter most directly. That is what's important. No matter what any of us do, you're going to be there at the moment. You're going to be the ones who can make the difference. And that is the importance. Thank you so much for being here. It matters to all of us, everybody that you know and everybody involved in this broadcast.
That's awesome. Thank you, Doc. Appreciate you and your support. I'll come to this camera, I guess. Dr. Conley means that sincerely, and they got on board the moment they heard about it. And that's the kind of energy, enthusiasm, and credibility that we needed behind this initiative. I want to do a quick review of why we're here. We're the network for men in their 40s, 50s, and 60s. Middle-aged men are 70% more likely to succumb to suicide than any other segment of the population. We knew we had to do something, but we're a brand new network. We literally just launched on January 29th. Yes, we're in 87% of the homes in the United States and Canada, 4.1 billion devices around the world. But we knew we had to do something. You can't ask people to support you until you do something of purpose and meaning. Well, where did this whole thing start? It started really in pain and tragedy. I had my own mental health issues, my own mental health challenges. I didn't want to live. I wanted to take my life and thought about it every single day. When I came out of that journey in the darkness, I knew that something had to be done. We had to kick out of depression and suicide. And I had been involved in live video streaming. And I thought to myself, could we create a community using content, meaningful content, content that inspires, content that equips, content that supports and celebrates and entertains? Could we build a community from the bottom up, regular people launching a television network with content creators that will change your life? I swear to you, I promise you, you watch NGBN-TV Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Find somebody you connect with in that network. We got 50 different creators. They will change your life. I promise you that. They will make a profound difference. They'll give you meaningful information and tangible tools. So we started the journey. We're going to build a television network, regular people. And then one of our own, a gentleman named James Gingrich, succumbed to suicide. Yeah. Within the organization that's trying to do something about suicide in middle-aged men, he succumbs to suicide. And we said, we can't wait. We got to go. We're not ready, but we got to go. And we got to launch sooner, and we got to hit the ground faster. And a bunch of people came together and said there has to be a resolve and a focus, and that's what we did. And so then we launched on January 29th, and we still weren't satisfied. We got to do something radical. What if we trained 100,000 people? What if we trained 100,000 people with the tools that they need to know what to listen for and what to look for, what to say and what to do? Because they would be closest to the problem. They could intervene, as Doc Conley said just a moment ago. They'd be able to intervene and change the course. First identifiers. Yeah, but who's going to train them? Who do we know? Well, there was this guy, his former sergeant in the military, in the Army specifically. He had been on one of our shows, Craig Hannum. He'd been on one of our shows, The Rubio Method. And I thought, well, what about that Craig guy? He's an expert. He's award-winning. He won the highest award that a civilian can get after he left the Army. He was so good at suicide intervention and prevention that the Army brought him back. He started doing incredible things, and they gave him the highest award a civilian can get. So I call Craig on the phone. Hey, Craig, my name's Ian. Oh, Ian, I know, yeah. I say, hey, Craig, we're going to train 100,000 people with the tools that they need to save somebody's life. Oh, I said, could you do that? In an instant, he said, I'm in. Didn't even question it, I'm in. So today, you're going to spend the balance of our time with Craig. He's going to give you meaningful information and tangible tools. He's going to teach you what to listen for, what to look for, what to say, and what to do. And then we're going to deploy tens of thousands of people across North America and beyond to do what? To intervene in a moment, to help somebody move away from the precipice. So Craig's an expert. He's award-winning. He's dedicated his whole self, his whole life to doing one thing, moving people away from a decision that they'll never come back from. He is a lifesaver, and he is a life changer. And so get out your notepads, get out your phones, and get ready to take some notes, because Craig is going to give you tools to change the course of history of somebody's life. So with that, I'd like to bring in Craig. Craig, come on in. We got your chair. We got Craig's chair. We got his microphone.
Definitely my chair.
We're going to shake his hand, and we're going to thank you for being here. But I got to ask you a quick question.
Yes, sir.
So, Craig, tell me why? Why do you do all this?
Because suicide's the only preventable death out there. and it makes an impact on somebody's life.
That's awesome.
There's nothing more demoralizing than losing somebody to suicide.
Yeah.
So why not step in? We got a positive, effective change.
I'm going to get out of your way.
All right.
I'm going to let you do your thing. The rest of the broadcast is going to be with Craig. So with that, let's turn it over to Craig Hannum. We just got a few people. Let's give him a big round of applause. Just a few people that are here. Right? You got to be loud. There you go. There you go.
All right.
Good luck to you.
Thank you.
All right, buddy.
Okay. Good morning. How's everybody doing? We're about to have some fun. I know that sounds weird. How can we possibly be having fun when we're talking about prevention? Well, I assure you, we will have a good time. You're going to learn a lot. We're going to grow. It might get emotional, and that's okay, because there's nothing more emotional than talking about suicide. So how about we get started? You guys with me? Good. Go ahead, AC. Say again? We're having technical difficulties? How about now? Good to go now? 1 second, folks. We'll figure this out. Good to go? All right. Okay, see. Go ahead and pull up my slides for me. That'd be great. So people follow along, take notes, take copious notes. And as we're doing this, if you guys got questions, type it in. We have people monitoring that. And we're going to take breaks here and there so we can actually go over those questions for you and answer them to the best that we can. Go ahead, AC. One second, folks. This would be a good time to tell a joke, but I don't want to offend anybody. Okay, I just need the slides. And don't worry, folks, it's not a lot of slides. I will not do a death by PowerPoint, I promise you. Here we go. All right, go ahead, next one, AC. So here's what we're going to learn today. How to have a conversation, okay? Just a simple conversation. And people say, well, I don't know what to say to people. We're going to teach you how to do that. And it's just a normal everyday conversation that you would do in any other subject, talking about sports, cars, whatever it might be, your favorite football team. You're going to have that conversation. You're going to watch out for their body language, micro expressions. This is important. Because rest assured, folks don't walk around with a billboard saying, I am suicidal. But they want to be known. They want to be discovered. So we're going to teach you how to pay attention to that stuff. We're going to watch out for those subtle and obvious indicators because they are out there. And then at the end of this, I assure you, you will be better equipped to save a life. Go ahead, AC. So let's talk numbers first. Numbers don't lie. So here we have some stats from 2021 and 2022. These are from the CDC. And if you notice, the difference between 21 and 22 is we have an increase. Look at those numbers. They're staggering. We have provisional numbers from the CDC for 2023 up to July. Guess what they say? 24,845 people have taken their life. And those are just provisional numbers. We don't have all the data yet. Here's another staggering number. There's only 38 countries, according to the World Health Organization, only 38 countries actually have a government-sponsored program to prevent suicide and preserve human life. We've got to do better than that. So those countries out there that don't have it, we could probably help out with that. 38 countries in the entire world. And over 700,000 people annually take their life across the globe. That's 1 in 100. Those are staggering numbers. Very sobering. So let's figure out how we can change this. Because what I'd like to see is a decrease in suicide. Maybe we can eliminate it. It is possible. I truly believe that. People say you're just hopeless. You're way too optimistic. It is possible to prevent suicide. It is the only preventable death out there. So let's figure this out. Go ahead, AC. First thing we need to talk about is stigma. And the stigma associated with the top 3 reasons people are doing it. These have not changed in decades. Isn't that crazy? A relationship, a breakup, a divorce, money issues, legal issues. Don't you find it interesting that these 3 areas seem to kind of coincide together? You never have one without the other. And I'm going to be giving you guys examples of things that I have dealt with in talking people down from suicide. And these elements are always there. And as we tell stories, we're going to come back to this. Go ahead, AC. So that stigma, this is what reinforces the reluctance in an individual to seek assistance for all kinds of reasons. They could be socioeconomic, they could be cultural. It could be because I'm a man. And let's be honest, men do not talk about feelings, don't we? We don't. Especially in rural areas. One person told me, well, the problem with rural areas is it's too spread out and there's not enough services. Yes, that is true. The other issue with rural areas is it's mostly a blue-collar demographic as far as work. Men don't talk about feelings in blue-collar arenas. So let's have this conversation because men want to be heard. Those who love men want to be heard. They want to have a voice. We got to get rid of that stigma. All it does is create shame, discredit upon yourself. Your personal belief systems can get in the way. Your personal belief systems can actually help you and teach you resiliency. Your core values. That's what we have to focus on and try to get rid of this issue. Go ahead, AC. Remember, if you guys are having questions out there, go ahead and send them. We have people on monitoring. Go ahead, next slide, AC, for me. And as we're talking more about it, as it's coming up, remember, stigma is the devil. There's stigma with all kinds of stuff out there, not just suicide. Go ahead, AC. One second, folks. It's going to pop up. I promise you. Did everybody have coffee? I hope you did. We had coffee. Been up early. Coffee's good. It's my mild addiction. So here's the Department of Defense model. It's very simple, full of acronyms, right? Military community has acronyms up the wazoo. ACE, ask, care, and escort. In our next chapter here in a minute, we're going to go down to the minutia and get into the weeds and the details of how this works. But it's basically just ask the question directly. Are you thinking about killing yourself? Are you thinking about suicide? Are you thinking about ending your life? Be direct in that questioning. Don't beat around the bush. And when you care for them, we're going to teach you how to be empathetic. You know, there is a difference between empathy and sympathy. So we're going to talk about that and how you can sit with them. Just being there, talking to them, having the conversation already demonstrates that you do care. And then when you escort, don't read into that. I had one guy say, well, here's how I'm going to escort somebody through suicidal. I'm going to zip tie him, put him in the back of my car, and take him to the ER. That's not what we're talking about. That's not escort. That's called kidnapping. That's bad. Let's not do that. When we're talking about escorting, it's just being there with them, getting them to a higher level of care, because that is the goal. If they know that they need more care, get them to the higher level care. So let's break this down in our next chapter. Go ahead, AC. Be direct, like I said, in your questioning. Have empathy. Ask them, why? What's going on? Even if you notice it. And that's going to be the hard part, because those subtle indicators, if they're super quiet, they might not want to talk. Sit there and be patient. They will open up. And once they start talking, the floodgates will open, and they will just vent on you. Let them. And in this chapter, always understand that this is mostly 80% listening and 20% talking. Let them tell their story. For whatever the reasons are, let them express it, validate it. Then when you, in that care part, be empathetic. Empathetic is more, there's all kinds of definitions when it comes to empathy and sympathy. But empathy is, I am validating how you are feeling. Sympathy is more like, oh, that's too bad for you. That's more pity. Empathy keeps the conversation going. It keeps your mind open, keeps your heart open, listening to their issues, why they're thinking about it. How long have you been thinking about this? What led you to this point in your life? Because those contributing factors, we have to identify what they are. Because the thing about contributing factors is that they will reintroduce themselves some way, somehow in your life when you least expect it. Always ask that why. Because the one question we can never answer when someone takes their life is, why did they do it? We have no idea. And with that, don't try to beat yourself up if you've lost somebody, and I'm sorry. Think about suicide. There's not a single person on the planet that hasn't been directly or indirectly affected by suicide. We all know somebody who took their life at some point in our life. In my 20-year career in the military, I lost 182 people just to suicide. And a couple weeks ago, I got notified that I lost another brother in arms to suicide. So now I'm at 183. And people have asked me, Craig, how many people have you saved? I have no idea. That's not the number I would hold on to. But 183 people total, just in my life alone. That's a lot. Then we get to that escort part. How you get them from where they are to a higher level of care. Tell them, hey, I really think we should go to the ER. Hey, let's call somebody. Let's call the pastor. Let's call your husband, your spouse. When you're having this conversation, this is not a classified conversation where we keep it to ourselves. You really have to make sure you pass it on to somebody else. Now, please don't read into that. Don't blast it out on Facebook going, hey, John is suicidal. What do you guys think? No, that's gossip. We don't do that. We inform other people that can assist. Especially if it's a child, you better get the parents involved. And parents, if you're out there and you've lost somebody to suicide, I'm sorry. There's nothing more demoralizing, in my opinion, than losing somebody to suicide. So tell them what's about to happen. Hey, I'm going to call 911. We're going to get an ambulance here. When the ambulance shows up, or first responders, whoever it's going to be, tell them everything in that conversation that you talked about. It's important because the slightest detail is what we could use to keep that person alive for now. And we're talking about right now in the moment. We've all heard of first aid. We know what first aid is. This is suicide first aid. How do I save your life right now? Not next week, not a year from now, but here in the moment. We're talking about mental health distress at its finest. We're succumbing to hopelessness, helplessness, the guilt they feel. They might feel alone. A lot of people feel completely alone in the world, and they're not because you're sitting right there with them. Remind them, I'm right here. Talk to me. What's going on? Don't over-promise, if that makes sense. Don't tell somebody, hey, I tell you what, if you don't kill yourself today, I will take you to Disneyland next week. You can't commit to that promise. Here's what I'm going to do for you right now. The ambulance is coming. We're going to take you to the hospital. Do you mind if I come with you? Be prepared, especially if you have knowledge about what happens to somebody when they're suicidal and they get to the hospital. They're going to get put in a room that's not comfortable. They might have paper pajamas put on them because we're worried about their safety. We don't want to add to anything to the risk that they're already feeling. If they've got a plan, do your best to separate them to access to that plan. For example, if you're sitting there in the living room, you're having the talk, you say, yeah, I'm thinking about suicide. And when you get to that point, you ask that question, hey, have you thought about how you would do it? Yeah, I've got a gun in the safe in my bedroom. Well, we're in the living room. You're not going to your bedroom. That's what I mean, keeping them separated from the means. One person says, well, what if they get up and start walking toward their bedroom? Do I tackle them? It's up to you. How they lead that conversation is going to dictate how you respond to those actions. So if you have to tackle somebody, tackle them. I had a gentleman years ago. He had a shotgun taped underneath his chin. I've known him for a very long time. And when I thought he was getting ready to do it, when I saw his finger move into the trigger well, yeah, I tackled him. I actually punched him. So I'm like, what are you doing? He said, why'd you punch me? I was like, do you feel that? He's like, yeah. I said, you're alive. And of course, he broke down. He didn't really want to kill himself. I can tell you this. This is 100% fact based on my experience. They will tell me now. In their lungs, please don't let me die. As they're bleeding, please stop the bleeding. I really don't want to die. Help me, help me. So we know that. We know people truly do not want to die. And as we're talking this subject, and I know it's a taboo subject, I get it. It's a double-edged sword concept when it comes to approach. How you talk to somebody could be successful. Awesome. It may not work for the next person. And the worst thing that we can do as the first identifier is, say things in our mind like, oh, here we go again. Same thing, different day. No. Whatever that situation is for that individual is unique. It might be commonplace for you. I've dealt with this before. I know what's going on. I know how to respond. To them, it's unique. Always treat it unique. Go ahead, AC. So, exploring invitations. Here's what this means. The invitations are basically your cues to get that conversation going. And in these 4 categories of actions, words, feelings, the physical, here's what we're talking about. For example, actions. It's hard to pick up on something that's very subtle with someone we don't know. But typically, in this case, you are going to end up talking to somebody that you do know, a coworker, a family member. Pay attention to their actions, things that they change in their behavior. What was commonplace in the military was people would give away their possessions, a car, their gaming console, TV, whatever it might be, because they would say things like, I'm not going to need this tomorrow. That's an invitation. Had an incident where I was getting ready to give a class to a group of soldiers. And as I'm setting up, I hear a couple of guys talking about this gentleman, a very young soldier who he gave him his Xbox and all of his video games. He's like, man, he's such a good friend. I'm like, wait a minute, that's odd. Why would you give up something like that? It's tens of thousands of dollars in value. So I asked him, I said, hey, where is he? Because he wasn't present for the class. So I went to their leadership. I said, hey, we're missing a soldier. And we found him. He was tying a rope around his neck, attached to a sandbag that he was going to launch out a third-story window in his barracks room as we were making entry. He was ready to leave the world, and he was giving away all kinds of stuff. Now, remember that double-edged sword concept I talked about? Don't read into it. Had one individual say, hey, Craig, I think so-and-so is suicidal. Really? What makes you think that? They gave me their pen. They're giving away their possessions. I was like, okay, hold on. Really? So, of course, I had to ask. I'm not a clinician. I'm not going to diagnose. I'm not going to prescribe. So I walked up to the person and said, hey, did you give a pen to, this person? Yeah, why? Well, why'd you do that? He goes, well, I got plenty of pens, and she needed a pen. I said, oh, okay, cool. So you're not suicidal? He goes, no, why would you think that? I said, well, I had to ask because that person thought. My point with that is we overreact sometimes, or worse, we underreact. Pay attention to what they do. Those actions are critical. If you notice, especially with young people, especially with young ladies, self-mutilation in the form of cutting, typically it's inside the legs, inside the thighs. Why do they do that? Because it's easy to hide. So I asked a really brilliant psychologist, I said, why are we doing that? Why are people cutting? He says, well, the concept behind it mentally is they're in charge of that pain. They're the ones who are saying, this pain that's happening to me right now, I'm doing it. No one else can hurt me. This is why I'm cutting. However, sometimes cutting can go too far. Pay attention to that stuff. Talk to them. Some people say, Craig, I don't know how to have that conversation with my teenager. My teenager doesn't talk to me as it is. And what do teenagers typically say? How was your day? What's their answer? Fine. No. To me, that's an invitation. No. What happened? Talk to me. Go through your classes. Who'd you interact with? What kind of conversations were you having? That way, this conversation isn't so taboo and it's not so foreign. And people say, well, I don't want this to be the topic of conversation around the dinner table. Okay. What if that person's not there? Because after the fact's too late. Listen to what they say. It's the category of words. We're talking in absolutes, meaning nothing is going to get better. Where they're convinced in their mind, life is not going to get better. I am not good enough. I will never be good enough. Phrases like this, those are invitations for you as the first identifier, saying, okay, why did you say that? What did you mean by that? I don't understand. Go in depth. Have open-ended questions. Force them, put the accountability back on them to keep that dialogue going. You said, I don't need my car anymore because I won't be here tomorrow. What did you mean by that? That way you can figure out, okay, do I be having suicidal behavior here? Because what if they say, well, I'm not going to need my car tomorrow because I'm going on a vacation for a month, or I'm deploying, or I'm going off to school, whatever it might be. Oh, okay, cool. Far out. Now I understand. But if you don't ask, you're not going to know the answer. So pay attention to their actions. Pay attention to their words. Things they say, things they don't say. Some people say, well, if they just sit there silent, they're not a danger to anybody. Really? They're a danger to themselves if they've already settled into hopelessness, helplessness, loneliness, that guilt. And that physical part, we're talking about just unable to function. They don't want to do anything. They don't want to participate. Especially if it's somebody you know that's always involved in life, cares about others. Or they start sensationalizing death. They start talking a lot about people who have killed themselves. What if they're not sleeping well? A lot of people struggle with sleep, let's be honest, especially in the military community because of post-traumatic stress, TBIs, etc. But if we're talking to somebody who normally gets a good night's sleep, and all of a sudden they're complaining about, I can't sleep, I haven't slept in a week, okay, tell me what's going on. They might be sick, they might be having some kind of issue, a headache, a migraine, whatever it might be, or there's something else going on where they're sitting up at night contemplating suicide. Because they're trying to convince themselves in their own mind, this is my only way out. This is my only way to fix this problem. And you guys have probably heard that tagline 1,000 times, that suicide is a permanent issue to a temporary problem. All of our problems are temporary. And guess what? We're going to have more problems. That's life. We got to figure out how to work this out. So other category of feelings. I've said it a few times, hopelessness, helplessness. They're beyond desperate. They are looking for answers. They're always angry, and they're usually in a good mood. Those are obvious indicators. The subtle part is difficult when it's somebody that's typically quiet, an introvert. I had one person tell me that, well, my wife never talks. She doesn't open up about anything. But when you check her phone logs, she's on the phone for 2-3 hours at night, typically between 10 and 6 o'clock in the morning, talking to a friend of hers that was on the East Coast. The topic was suicide. They want to be heard. They want to be validated. They want to be told, okay, we can fix this. Because when you say we, that's us together. I'm going to help you. I'm going to guide you through this. I'm going to help find solutions for you to keep you safe for now. The Suicide First Aid Foundation that we're talking about here. It can be prevented. I assure you, it is possible. We're going to have more conversations about this, more examples here in the next few chapters. So again, if you're having questions, please write them down. And we'll do our best to answer them. Go ahead, AC, the next chapter. All right, check this out. We've all heard about the iceberg. You know, our problems at the tip of the iceberg. You know, we mask everything underneath. This is what I call like the facade, the face that we put on. I'm going to let you see what I want you to see. That's the tip of the iceberg. That is our outward behavior. It's everything underneath that's creating serious issues. So we're going to break this down. And I don't think we have any questions just yet. So we do? We do have a question. All right, Ian. You guys remember Ian?
Let me grab that from you. So we do have some questions that have come in. And before we do that, though, I just want to tell you you're doing a great job.
Oh, thank you. I'll try.
So put your questions in Facebook, put your questions in Twitter, put your questions on the social media, and we're going to read them. So the first question is from Matt. So let's pull up Matt. Sorry about that. So the first question from Matt. Matt says, now what do you do if the individual does not want to be approached about such a personal matter? Some may call it a subtle call for help, but still, some may call for a subtle, have a subtle call for help, but still refuse to talk about it. So I think basic, and we've had this question a couple of times in different forms. How do I broach it? Like, what are the words that I say? If I kind of see an indicator, kind of like that indicator on a dashboard on a car,
right.
I kind of see it. I don't want to offend anybody. What are those first words?
Yeah, that's a great analogy, because when you look at your cluster on your dashboard and a light comes on, like the check engine light, we've been talking about this, doesn't mean the car is about to explode. It means there's something going on, so you just got to figure out what it is. You're not going to throw the car away. So in this case, say it was you, and I'm picking up on something, you're typically upbeat, generally in a good mood. All of a sudden you're not. Now he might be mad about something. Let's find out what it is. You know, touch is very comforting. You know, some people don't like being touched. But when it comes to guys, hey man, I'm noticing something. Okay, you seem sad. Typically, you're really in a good mood. I don't want to pry into your personal life, but there's nothing more personal, folks, than losing somebody to suicide. And some people say, well, what if I'm wrong? Fantastic. That's the best time in life to be wrong. I asked you if you were suicidal. You said, no, of course not. What made you think that? Tell them why. Because you seem sad. Is there something going on? You want to talk about it? Let's go grab some coffee. Let's do something. Let's go hang out.
So is it just asking an open-ended question? Is that it?
Yeah, I've noticed you're sad. Are you? Yes, I'm sad. Well, what do you mean? You paid attention to that? You'll see the shock in people's eyes when they realize that now somebody cares about me. They noticed I'm upset, I'm sad, they're asking me if I'm suicidal, and if they say yes, I haven't think about it. Okay, let's talk about that. And one thing we don't want to do is make it look like it's a checklist. You know, those open-ended questions are so important. Okay, why are you suicidal? Well, you know, I had a breakup. My wife's divorcing me. Oh man, that's horrible.
You know, I noticed as we talked through this, and I was seeing it on social media, it's really not we don't need to talk. We don't need to give a pep talk, right?
Right.
Isn't that our natural? We want to give a pep talk. Hey, you're going to be okay. It's going to be all right. Oh, yeah. But it's the opposite. Be quiet, right?
Be quiet. 80% listening, 20% talking. because you don't want to make it about you. Because if you're egocentric, this is not the person to talk somebody down to suicide. Because we're going to put our personal approach on it. We're going to take our experiences. Like if you say, having a divorce, it's heartache. It's my, I can't believe this is happening. You don't want to compare and say, well, I've had 6 divorces. You don't know anything about heartache. That's not what we're doing here. We're validating your feelings, your response to that feeling. Suicide is a negative response to a life issue.
We had a couple more questions around the same subject matter, and it revolved around when you're talking about first of all, a lot of people positively commenting about this idea of invitation.
Okay.
That these are indicators of an invitation. But somebody said, what do you mean by an invitation? Will you unpack that a little bit more?
Yeah, sure. So an invitation is more like, you gave me an invitation. I know who you are. You're a happy guy. You're positive. You're upbeat, but now you're sad. That's the invitation for me as the first indicator. I'm going to be the responder to say, hey, I've noticed this. You gave me the invitation. Their actions will give you the invitation. Things they do, things they don't do. A change of behavior, a change in how they deal with life generally. Talking in absolutes. That's the invitation. Yes. So that's our invitation.
The emotional change, the financial change, something in their life changes, the invitation for you and I to step in and ask the open-ended question and then just sit back and listen, give them space.
Exactly. Let them talk. Let them voice what's going on. Validate. That's the empathy part. I understand how you're feeling. Folks, I'll be honest. I've never been suicidal. Never. I've been depressed, and we're going to talk about depression here in a minute. But the invitation that the person at risk gives you is those actions, the words, their mannerisms, their attitude, talking about, man, when Kurt Cobain did this, when Robin Williams did this, they start talking about things that they normally don't talk about.
That's the invitation.
That's the invitation.
All right. So keep your questions coming in every 20, 30 minutes. We're going to stop the bus, do some questions so we can respond. Let's get on to the next chapter.
Cool. Sounds good. All right. So the next thing we're talking about is the iceberg model. We're talking about behavior. Like I said before, this is the facade that we put up. I'm the person at risk. I'm going to show you what I want you to see. The invitations I gave you, you don't respond to it. Okay, maybe I'll give you another invitation. So let's talk about how we hide this. And it's in these categories that we're going to break down to get into the science. So everything on that red line that you see there, everything above is what we show people typically on a daily basis. And we do this for so many reasons, especially men. I don't want anybody knowing my innermost secrets and the demons that challenge me on a daily basis. Go ahead, AC. So first thing we're talking about is triggers, trauma associated with triggers, post-traumatic stress, et cetera, et cetera. So we got to be careful because some people say, well, don't say post-traumatic stress disorder. As soon as we introduce the D word, what comes to mind? Well, it's everything that reinforced stigma from before, remember? What happens in this case is you said the word disorder. I'm broken. I'm unfixable. I have a mental health issue. 20 plus years in the Army, ladies and gentlemen. Of course I have post-traumatic stress. But I learned long ago how to take post-traumatic stress disorder and turn it into post-traumatic growth. Because you know what the best thing about trauma is? You have it. Congratulations, which means you survived. So in that first word we're talking about there, the triggers. What is your catalyst? What is it? Usually a smell or a sound that just hits this slideshow in your mind of everything that you've survived. I'll be brutally honest with you. Mine is the smell of burning hair. And for those of you out there listening who know me, you know what that means. On the battlefield, first thing that I would get an odor of, with everybody dying around me, combat, all that jazz, is the smell of burning hair. It's the first thing that goes off is the hair gets burned. Your emotional state, write this down, your emotional state at the time that you are exposed to your trigger will dictate how you respond to it. Now, a lot of people say, well, triggers are bad. No, triggers are great because they are out there in life. So let's paint a picture. Let's say, hypothetically, happiest place on earth. So since we're in California, let's talk about Disneyland. Say we're at Disneyland. We're getting up, we're excited, can't wait to get out there, see Mickey, get on the rides, Galaxy's Edge, all that jazz that we're so excited about when it comes to Disneyland. So say you're there with your spouse and she's curling her hair because she wants to look Disney perfect for all the pictures. And say you get a whiff of that odor because that's your trigger. Oh, another thing about triggers, yours could be similar to someone else's. Lots of people can say, well, the smell of burning hair is bad for me too, but it's unique to you. It is your trigger. So let's get back to that analogy. So paint the picture, curling, burning her hair, get a whiff of the odor. I'm probably just going to separate, probably say something like, wow, that stinks, and nothing else is going to happen. Why? Because I'm in a good mood. My emotional state is I'm positive, I'm elated, I'm joyful. So I'm okay. I got exposed to my trigger, and I know how to respond to that in a healthy way. Now, let's reverse this a little bit. What if you're with your significant other, You're getting dressed, you're putting on your Sunday best for a funeral, and you get exposed to it. Are you going to respond in a different way to that trigger? Absolutely. Because your emotional state is already compromised. You're already in a position of sadness, grief, and then you get a whiff of the one thing, or you hear the one thing that drives you nuts. Of course, there's going to be a moment where you're like, wait, I have to pause. And remember, you got to be able to talk to somebody about this. Yes, I have bad dreams. I have bad dreams almost every night. And my wife is awesome because her and I have a fantastic coping mechanism that we have put in place. She knows my top 3 worst dreams from experiences. All I have to say is where I was geographically. I was in the desert. I was in the mountains, wherever it might be. So she knows. If I say a key word from one of those top 3 dreams, she knows exactly what's going on and what's happening in my mind. And this is where we as men have to be able to voice our traumas. You've got to be able to talk about it. Open up. Is it going to make you vulnerable? Yes. You know what? That's great. You should be vulnerable. Vulnerability is not weakness. It is a strength-building emotional response to us, to being a guy, being a man. One way I can put it into a picture, let me see here. If you guys watch Friends, and if you guys remember that episode when Ross and Rachel finally kissed, they're in the little coffee shop, they kiss, woohoo, they're all excited, fade to black. Then the next episode comes on. In the first 5 minutes of the opening scenes, what do you see? You see the ladies in the apartment, and Rachel says, oh my God, I kissed Ross. Oh, they freak out. They're jumping with joy. They're all excited. Get the wine glasses, unplug the phone. Don't leave out any details, and they just can't stop talking about it. They go down to the minutia of that experience. And then we flip over to the guys. They're over there eating pizza over the foosball table. And like, oh, you kissed Rachel? Ross is like, yeah. And then Joey, remember, he was like, tongue? He's like, yeah, cool. And that's it. That's what guys do. We don't talk. I'm sure you guys have heard those comedians, on the Blue Collar Comedy Tour, and they talk about why men don't talk. They say, well, John and Jill are getting a divorce. And you tell the wife, she's like, oh my God, well, what happened? I just told you. They're getting a divorce. Well, do you know the details? Did he cheat? What's going on? I don't know. That's all I know. When the ladies talk about it, they have the finite details. We got to change this, especially when it comes to the topic of suicide, ladies and gentlemen. We have to be able to voice our emotions. Your triggers are a positive thing. You see that quote there from the retired fire chief from Detroit, Dave Parnell. I wish my head could forget what my eyes have seen. First responders are high as far as stats are concerned when it comes to suicide because of all the trauma they see on a daily basis. Firefighters are at risk. Law enforcement are at risk. Paramedics, EMTs, doctors, veterinarians, believe it or not. Veterinarians have a high suicide rate. And then you think about those categories, the medical field, they have direct access to medications to make themselves go to sleep for the last time. Law enforcement have direct access to lethal means. Isn't it horrible that the people that we depend on the most to come and fix our issues are also at risk? Go on to that next slide, AC, please. So work, home, and school. These things always kind of seem to intermix, especially adults, working adults who are seeking higher education. So they're working full time and still trying to get another degree, adding another 20 to 30 hours on their workload. That can be stressful. And I love when people say, separate your work life from your personal life. You know what? It's impossible. It truly is. There's no way we can separate those. They're part of us. Our job is what we do because commerce is important. I get it. To help maintain life. Our life is supposed to be those that are close to us, those that we love. So if you have a bad day at work, people say, oh, leave it at the threshold of the door. It's not really possible. Tell them why you had a bad day at work. Got to listen to that because that's actually an invitation. They may not be suicidal, but they're having a bad day at work. Let them voice it to you. And if it's the problems that they're causing, they're kind of at fault. If it's external factors out there, it was this, I got shot at, so-and-so quit, we were short on our shift, it just all these things. Let it out. That way the person that loves you the most is hearing your concerns and they're paying attention. Because what if you come home from work and it was a really bad day and you're not talking? Okay, what happened? It must be serious. Please open up to me. What's going on? Are you okay? I don't want to talk about it. And they walk away and they start drinking. So imagine they're emotionally compromised. Their behavioral state is compromised. They've had one of those horrible days, and the first thing they want to do is start drinking. Is that going to help the problem? Absolutely not. Now, in retrospect, home issues going into work. Does that happen? Oh, yeah. So think about it. Say you get in an argument with your significant other before you go to work. And man, let's be honest. We do not win arguments with our wives. Let's just accept that. Okay? 100%. And all the ladies out there are probably looking left or right at their men going, yeah, exactly. Yeah, he's spot on. This guy's awesome. Well, that's reality. You want to know why they like to argue with us? Because they care. They're trying to figure out what's going on in their life. But would you be distracted all day long? Yeah. So imagine if you are a first responder where you have to be on it. You have to be paying attention. Your life probably depends on it, but you're distracted. As soon as you get to work, you got a good friend, buddy, a boss, whoever it might be, say, hey, got in an argument with my spouse this morning. Here's what happened. You don't have to go into brass details if you don't need to, but tell them I got an argument. And can I talk to you about it? Yeah, sure. Get it off your chest. That way you can stay focused at the task. And then we have school, especially young adults. Don't just let them walk inside, the house and you say, hey, how was school today? Fine. No, talk to me. What's going on? Too often I deal with parents when they're having issues with their kids, especially if they lost a fellow classmate to suicide. Let them tell you about it. Let them talk. Let them vent. It's stressing them out. They're freaked out. The person that they saw all the time in class, at lunch, on one of the teams, if they're athletes. And now they're not going to be there ever again. Let them grieve with you. Now, I'm not a psychologist. I'm not going to say, hey, go through the 5 stages of grief. No. Grieve how you want to. Because you got to make sure that you are safe. Domestic violence, yeah, that's a contributing factor to suicide. Stress at school. Imagine somebody who gets a 4.0 all the time. Highly intelligent. School comes easy to them. All of a sudden, they got an 88% on an exam. Are they going to be stressed? Yes, because they put themselves to such a high standard, and now I failed. They didn't fail, but in their mind, that's what they're saying. Remember how we were talking about those invitations? How they're thinking. All of a sudden, I am stupid because I got a B+ on an exam. Let them voice that to you. Go ahead, AC. And as we go deeper and deeper in this iceberg, the next category we're talking about is trauma from childhood. Is it possible that we take all these issues from how we were raised and bring it into our adult life? Yeah, we do. Especially men. People always ask me, Craig, why did you join the Army? You some kind of patriot? You want to be a hero? No. In truth, the reason why I joined the military, my number one reason, was to escape an abusive household. It was horrible. It took me a while to find my identity. And I had a leader a long time ago say, why'd you join the military? I said, well, to escape an abusive household. He goes, well, that's not a good reason. I was like, really? I volunteered. In my opinion, whoever volunteers for the armed services, whatever your reason for, it's honorable because it's an all volunteer force. But I had childhood issues from that. It took me a while to figure that out. I've been emotionally compromised too. So talk about it. There's so many kids out there that are in abusive households, or they're born into drug abuse, alcohol abuse, very violent domestic issues. Maybe it's a gang-ridden city. Maybe the block that they grew up on, they're the minority. All these issues. And that's okay. Let them talk about it. I see these memes every now and then. It says, if I talk to my dad the way kids talk to their dads today, A, B, and C would happen. Yeah. But I look back going, man, did I really need to get beat down by a leather belt? That's a little extreme. The best part about trauma is it doesn't hurt because you don't remember that pain. You knew it hurt. So we got to talk about it. Conversation, people. These are more ways to have that conversation. Listen to what your child's telling you. Let them voice it. Because you as the parent, you're supposed to make sure that you prepare them for the next stage in life, which is adulthood. Go to the next slide for me there, AC. Here's what I love. So remember when we're talking about the invitations and things that people say, how they voice it, talking to absolutes. For example, when someone says, this is the best day of my entire life. I'm like, no, it's not. You're going to have another best day. This might be one of your favorite best days. That's great. It's the same is true when we're talking about this is the worst day of my entire life. No, it's not. Here's what's great about that. And I'm an optimist, but hear me out. Your next worst day is coming, and it's going to make this one look like it was just a vacation. That is life. There are so many external factors out there that we can't control. And that's okay. We're not supposed to be in 100% control. But I can definitely control how I respond to it, how I feel about it. So when we talk about depression, I would tell people, one person said, I have never been depressed. I will never be depressed. Liar. We're not talking about clinical depression here. We're talking about moments of sadness. I got hurt a long time ago. Couldn't see, could barely walk, and I was in a wheelchair. I was depressed, especially when here I am as an adult male trying to learn how to walk again, and that took months. Was I depressed? Absolutely. Did I stay depressed? No. One, I'm stubborn or tenacious, and I don't quit. I do not want to give up, so I kept pushing and pushing myself because I knew I was depressed. I knew I was sad. There's no way we can go through life not being depressed ever unless you're apathetic and you're not paying attention. You know, we see all these things in the news. People say, you know, the world is depressing me. That's an invitation. Why? What in the world is making you depressed? Force them to have the dialogue. Just ask those good questions. Why are you depressed, man? Well, I'm sad because, you know, my girlfriend broke up with me. Oh, okay, that sucks. You know, what did I just do? I just validated it. That sucks. Does it suck for me? No. For you. That's my empathy. I am validating your feeling. You want to talk about it? Yeah. Then what do people say? Especially guys. Oh, man, come on. There's plenty of fish in the sea. Is there? That one special person? You know, are they out there? Yeah. But did I validate his feelings by saying, oh, man, there's plenty of fish in the sea. You'll be fine. I had a senior leader in the military. Horrible. One. Not going to say his name because that's bad. Let's not do that. Soldier walks up to him, very young troop, and he was married, high school sweetheart. And all of a sudden we started seeing changes in behavior, brought him to the leader, and the leader says, what's going on, man? He goes, well, it looks like I'm going to get a divorce. He goes, oh, okay. Is this your first? So one, he didn't validate it. He just asked him, is this your first? He goes, well, yeah. He goes, you don't know anything about heartache. I've been divorced 6 times. No. One, I wouldn't brag about being, divorced and remarried 6 times. I don't think that's a good stat to hold on to. But at no point did he validate the feelings of that young person by saying, yes, this is horrible. What do you need? You want to talk about it? Can we help you? Have you talked about counseling? Because what do we do as men? When we see something broke, we want to fix it. And ladies out there, you'll admit that sometimes you don't need things fixed. I just need you to listen. We got to do the same thing with our peer group. Talk to me. Why? So this is really sad for you. Are you struggling? Are you thinking about, ending your life? Are you thinking about suicide? And people say, oh my God, you just can't ask the question directly. Yes, you can. Because the people who really need and want that help will respond to it. A long time ago, we were helping out clinicians, getting ready to be mental health counselors. So we're coaching them in suicide response, suicide first aid, how to be a first identifier. And we're watching through the glass, and there was an actual patient sitting across from this young counselor. And we knew, one, he was suicidal. We knew he was sad. He was battling depression, clinically, taking medication, all that jazz. She didn't know that. So as they're having the conversation, she notices that he is not making eye contact. Hey, that's another invitation, by the way. Not making eye contact to me is like, hey, I'm right here. What's going on? Look at me. Talk to me. Don't look down at the floor. So anyways, this patient was looking down at the floor, never made eye contact, would not look at the counselor. And she goes, you seem really sad. He just kind of nods. Are you depressed? He nods. And he made a comment by saying, nothing's going to get better. My life is not going to get better. He was elderly, I think just over 70. So to him, nothing is going to improve his last days on earth. That's where he was thinking, those absolute thinkings. And she said, wait a minute, are you thinking about suicide? And he looks up, finally makes eye contact with her. He goes, yes. She freaked out. She goes, why would you do that? That is insane. So now we're judging. Instead of being empathetic, she went off the rails and started getting upset with him, treating it like it was a criminal act. If you guys have been paying attention, there's one word I have not said this entire time. And this is how we make this conversation more common with commonality of language. I have not said the word commit. And here's why. Rapists commit rape, murderers commit murder. Nobody commits suicide. It's not a criminal act. And still, to this day, we will treat it like it's a criminal act. That's how we used to do it in the military. I was guilty of it. If somebody came up and said, hey, I'm feeling suicidal, I'm like, what? You're a sissy. Are you kidding me right now? Go away. I don't have time for you. I have more important things to do than worry about you feeling suicidal. That's how we used to deal with it. We had to change our mindset, how we approach it. Stop thinking it's criminal. Will law enforcement show up when you call 911? Possibly, yeah. We've got to, we're talking about our first responders. We got to keep them safe. They don't know what they're walking into. But it's a mental health distress response, not criminal. I showed up at one scene. Local police department called and said, hey, we need your help. Got a soldier inside. He's freaking out. Cool. I get there, and he's inside, and he's just screaming at the top of his lungs. That's all he was doing. And they wanted to get the SWAT team to go in and arrest him. I'm like, what are you arresting him for? Screaming? The guy's upset. Have you asked him why he's screaming? No, he's just freaking us out. Okay, well, let's ask him. Knock on the door. Say, hey, can you open the door? He opens the door. I said, hi, how you doing? My name's Craig. Why are you screaming? And when he told us why, the rest of the police department was like, oh, man, we almost messed that up. You're responding to mental health distress. So I know we got some more questions out there. Am I right, Ian? Thank you, people, for doing these questions. It makes this very interactive. I dig it.
We have tons of questions, and we have tons of people saying you're doing a great job.
Oh, far out. Thank you.
I just literally got a text from someone that said he's doing amazing.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah. And so you can pay your wife when we. No, I'm just kidding.
Oh, I know. I'm definitely going to pay.
So the questions so far, as we were on the iceberg, revolved in general around. Okay, we know there's depth. We know that there's a lot to this. At what point do I take action? Or is it just about listening? In other words, at what point do I start to talk?
Right. Okay, good question. So here's what we're going to do. You are maybe, remember, 80% listening, 20% talking. So as that conversation is going and they're opening it up, saying, yes, I am depressed. This is horrible. It's happening. I can't believe this is happening to me right now. You're like, okay, that's a horrible thing. You're right. Keep going. Let's go deeper. Well, you hit that question. You say, well, are you thinking about suicide? Well, yes, I am. So now remember, avoid the checklist, but in your mind, you're like, there's things I need to know. Okay. Do you have a plan? That's important.
So how do you ask that question?
All right. So say
So
you and I.
okay, let's
back,
role play it.
You're sad. So we're back in that conversation. Like, all right, have you been thinking about suicide?
Yeah, actually, I think the world would be better without me here.
Okay. Why do you say that?
Just because everything's effed up, man. And my finances are effed up. My job is effed up. No one wants to be with me. My kids, my wife. It's just a mess. And you know what? Everybody would be better without me.
Really? Okay. So let me tell you guys a story. Okay. So that's good, right? So here's what happened. Responded to an incident. Young soldier, highly suicidal, armed, had a pistol in his lap. And when I got there, the wife was there. So I walked up, I said, hey, can you tell me what he loves, who he loves, what's important to him? She's like, yes, the kids, the dog, his friends, me, et cetera, et cetera. I said, okay, can you do me a favor? Because you have to get sometimes unorthodox in how you have this conversation. Remember, you might be used to it, and I know how to do it because I can play it out in my mind because I've done it 100 times, but to the individual, it's unique. So in this case, I said, hey, can you text me pictures of everything that's important to him? And she said, yes. Now, typically, when we're having this conversation, your phone should be out of sight, out of mind. Because if you're on your phone and you're talking about suicide, is my attention on you?
Yeah, it doesn't show my value at all, right?
No, I'm not being empathetic. I'm like, okay, hurry up because I got movie tickets. Let's go. Speed this up. No, you have to take your time. It might take minutes, might take hours. We don't know. It might go through the entire night. So when I walk in, the young soldier knew who I was. He's like, Mr. Hannum, why are you here? I said, you know why I'm here? I'm here for you. What's going on? Can you put that gun down for me? You got to be careful about what risk you are willing to take. That choice is yours. Like the active shooter response, run, hide, fight. You have to make that decision. In this case, if you're not willing to go in there because the person's armed, don't.
Well, and probably better not to, right?
Not to, yeah. So I walked in. I said, hey, can you put it down? He goes, yeah, puts it down. I said, all right. So we just started having a conversation. Two things were happening. One, I found out he was devout Catholic. So I said, if you kill yourself, you're going to be in purgatory forever, right? According to your beliefs. He's like, oh, I totally forgot about that. And he made that comment, like you said, no one will miss me. The world will be better off without me. I said, really? So I grabbed the phone. I said, can I show you something? And I just started going through pictures. How about this person? How about that dude? How about your daughter? You think your dog's going to miss you? Yes, dogs will miss you. You had a German Shepherd. And trust me, they're high maintenance and they will miss you. And when I started doing that, a light bulb went on in his mind. It was an epiphany. And I said, oh, by the way, your wife's out front. What do you think this is going to do to her for the rest of her life if she hears this shot?
So here we are in that role play
Yeah.
scenario. I'm having a challenge. You're there with me. I'm saying things like, world would be better. World would be better without. That point in time comes. How do we avoid making it sound like it's a pep talk where you're telling me, oh, no, the world's great with you here? What are some of those key phrases we can put in our toolkit that you would use to respond to the world's effing better without me? I want to go.
Right. Well, it's no different in those absolute thinkings that they say. Things that we say can also have that effect, going, oh, the world is going to be great with you. Really? How many people do you know in your life? Does the world know who you are? You know, you don't want to entertain it. So, you know, I get what you're saying, but how? How is the world going to be a better place without you in it? You know, we're trying to.
So it's a validation. Your feelings are real.
Yes.
That sucks that it feels like this. And then another open-ended question.
Exactly. Keep the questions going because it energizes thought. And if one person said, well, they just sit there and argue with you. That's great. Argue. Let's go back and forth because you're not thinking about killing yourself. You're pissed.
So you're redirecting them.
Exactly. The accountability has to go on the individual who's thinking about suicide. Because I didn't bring it up. I didn't say, hey, I know you're suicidal, aren't you? No. Are you? Here's what I'm seeing. I think you might be suicidal based on what's going on. Every question, keep it open-ended. Keep the conversation going. Let them talk. Let them cry.
And you don't come to this conversation in a hurry.
Exactly.
Don't come to this conversation with other things you need to do later today.
Right.
And whatever you do, at least from what I've learned from you over the past months, whatever you do, don't end the conversation. I got to go.
Exactly. So
if you're going to start it, you better be ready for the long run.
Yeah. And of course, you want to try and separate their means. Had an incident a long time ago where a soldier said he was going to drive his truck into oncoming traffic. That's how he wanted to go. So when leadership came to pick him up, they said, hey, let's go to lunch. I was like, okay. He goes, you know what? I got some work to do. You know, I'm going to be on my phone. How about you drive my truck? He did. And then we lost 2 people that day because he drove his truck in oncoming traffic. He did not separate him from the means. He gave him access to it.
So things that could cause harm, let's try to move them away from those things. We, AC, if you can get ready to go to commercial, because we're going to take a quick commercial here at the top of the hour. Before we do that, if you were to summarize the iceberg, if you were to bring it down to key learning points of the iceberg, what would they be? And then AC will go to that quick commercial.
Well, you guys saw how the iceberg, the categories, we kept going deeper and deeper in the water. That's because it gets heavier. And at the bottom of that, we started talking about depression. There's also undiagnosed mental health illness. You know, remember, I'm not a clinician. If you're not a clinician, don't try to diagnose. Don't say, well, you have a...
Don't be Dr. Phil.
Don't be Dr. Phil. Let Dr. Phil be Dr. Phil. You're just trying to figure out, how do I keep you safe for now? So to summarize everything in that, the deeper you go in that water, the heavier those issues are going to be. So we try to keep them away from that. And if they go straight to, I'm seriously depressed. Okay, cool. You don't have to go in your mind or pull out your cheat sheet going, oh, wait, we didn't talk about triggers yet. Hold on, let's talk about triggers. They're going to lead the conversation. So if they go straight into, I am seriously depressed. Okay, tell me why. What's going on in your life that's making you depressed?
You know, the big takeaway for me so far, invitations. Looking for the invitations. Looking for those key indicators on my dashboard that will tell me to ask some open-ended questions, listen, ask some open-ended questions, affirm, validate, all those key elements, right?
Absolutely. That's the basis of what we're trying to do here, because not everybody is highly trained or equipped to pick up on those subtle indicators, micro expressions, etc. You know, it's years of training, education, scenarios. That's why I talk about the stories, so you can kind of relate, going, oh, that's how he diffused that one.
Well, we're going to come back after this commercial message, about 2 minutes. So it gives you a chance to, keep going. We're not going to go to commercial message.
No commercial.
This is what you get. This means don't go to commercial message. Just keep talking. So
Jenna was like, no.
I got one more question for you while they're getting the commercial ready. Someone that we're talking to right now, sitting in a group in Cary, North Carolina. They're in Cary, North Carolina. I just saw them all sit and watch a big screen. Or in Princeton, New Jersey, they're watching. Cool. Dallas, they're watching. South Africa, Kenya.
Nigeria.
But you're talking about me now.
Right.
So some of the things that you've said, they say, well, he's referring to me.
Yeah.
So that person.
Yeah.
The person who's struggling and they're sitting in the room, everyone's learning about this, but they're struggling. What do they do? How do they broach the subject with somebody?
Right. And we know that's happening. Happening right now.
We know right now somebody watching, yes.
Somebody right now is in that compromised state. So you got to make sure your mental health is squared away. Because if you're compromised, that's a problem. How are you going to talk them down? However, remember the double-edged sword concept we talked about? If I am compromised and I know what this feels like, can I help him? Probably. Hey, can I tell you a story? So when you're comparing or telling stories, always ask for permission. Can I tell you something that relates to this that I've experienced?
Yeah, because you got to be careful to just autobiography. Right. Let me tell you about my story. They don't want to hear your freaking story. Yeah. They want you to listen to them.
That's why I tell people, if your ego has low self-esteem, meaning you always needed it cuddled, patted, reinforced. Hey, you showed up to work on time. We're so proud of you. You tied your shoes. Oh, that's awesome. That's not the person we want talking somebody else down.
But if somebody right now is the one who is struggling, they're the one that you're talking about. They have these thoughts. They use those words, but they're sitting in a group learning about this, and they just don't know who to talk to. What's my first step to getting help?
Hi, how you doing? What's going on? I can see it in your eyes. What is it? People will think, well, we're talking about suicide. That means I'm suicidal. No, talking about suicide or introducing the word does not create that thought. The thought's been there for a while.
And it's okay for me to be, if I'm hurting and broken, it's okay for me to be vulnerable.
Absolutely.
And it's okay for me to just say, hey, I ain't got my poop together.
Exactly.
Right? It is okay. I mean, if there was one thing that I would want to get across as we get to, because they have the commercial ready, you've said this to me. It takes tremendous strength to stand up and say, these 7 things in my life are good. These 3 things aren't.
Right. Yeah. Talk about those 3 things. What is it? Okay. Well, like those top 3 reasons that we saw that haven't changed in decades. I'm having a breakup. Oh, that's horrible. That sucks. I'm sorry to hear that. What led to that? Well, I have a gambling problem. So I bet $50,000 on the wrong team for the Super Bowl.
Or 100, all relative, right?
All relative, yeah. Now we have financial issues, okay? Then, now we're having other problems because we can't pay the bills. Everything's getting repossessed. Now we have legal issues getting involved. So they always seem to coincide with each other. So those 3 elements could happen at the exact same time. And you tell them, yes, that's horrible. And quite honestly, with most people when it comes to the suicidal behavior, the situation that they're dealing with, they created. And that's a hard truth. And I'm trying to upset anybody. That is the hard truth. I created this problem. Now, how do I fix it? But I can't do it by myself. That's the best part. Because like guys with F3, all those things they do across the world, circle of trust, you are creating a circle of trust in that conversation. And in my opinion, there is nothing stronger than a couple, 2, 3 guys helping out one person and everybody's crying. That means we're all feeling the exact same way for you. The world might be huge. We're trying to make it smaller with this stuff, but you're the most important person in my life right now. And you got to tell them that, reinforce that, because they need to hear it. Like, really? Why am I important to you? Oh, now the conversation changed. So now I'm adding positive reinforcement to why you're so important to me.
There's something powerful about just listening. It does make them feel like they're the most important person in the world.
Exactly.
We're going to take a quick commercial message, 2 minutes. And the reason that this is important is because these people are who make it possible for us to be here. So will you do me a favor? Support those that support us. We'll be right back.
Hello, everyone. My name is Matthew Askren. I'm from Family Farm, partnering with NGBN-TV, with Ian Hill, with the entire team. I've got to tell you that this is a momentous occasion, and the fact that we've got so many people that are taking the time out of their busy lives to volunteer and to try and learn how to save a life is so amazing. We appreciate all that you're doing, both from Family Farms and from NGBN.TV, but also we just appreciate it for humanity as we tackle this epidemic of men's mental health. Please, when you have a chance, check out Family Farms, check us out in your stores, check us out online, check us out on your social media, familyfarmsllc.com. But most of all, take a moment and understand how much we appreciate what you're doing for one another with this training and all that's involved.
One week after launching our exclusive sneak peek, NGBN-TV was live for 3 days of continuous coverage from Super Bowl 58 in Las Vegas.
NGBN-TV is live from Las Vegas for Super Bowl 58.
The one-of-a-kind streaming TV network for men in their 40s, 50s, and 60s was the conversation for the big game about men's mental health. In the world of athletes, celebrities, and influencers, we're on notice. But we're just getting started with new partnerships announced like the Team Nike 3-on-3 Championship and new platforms available to download the NGBN-TV app. So, what are you waiting for? Download the app today from your favorite streaming device or check us out at NGBN.TV. This is NGBN-TV.
Welcome to Family Farms, where our culinary journey is woven with passion, dedication, and a commitment to crafting the finest bacon-wrapped chicken, a timeless delicacy that has tantalized the taste buds since 1974. At Family Farms, we're more than just a traditional name. We've evolved into purveyors of gourmet delights. Join us on this flavorful adventure, where every bite tells a story of tradition, quality, and the enduring spirit of Family Farms.
Welcome back to Equip Ourselves to Save a Life. My name's Ian Hill with NGBN-TV. We'll be right back to Craig in just a second, but we want to thank Carf International for their incredible support. Family Farms, you just saw their commercial, and their CEO, Matthew Askren. And then I want to call out two people. Amy Knapp. Amy Knapp. You see, Amy Knapp donated $50. She donated $50 in the name of her brother who succumbed to suicide. And then Crystal Ortega, she supported us with $50. She's been an incredible supporter through this whole journey. What's my point? Whether it's Carf International, their tremendous support, Family Farms, two incredible companies, or two individuals like Amy and Crystal, you can support this effort. You see, we're going to take this to 100 communities across North America in the next 18 months. That's right. This virtual is going to turn into a brick and mortar. We're going to come to your town. We're going to come to your town. You'll have more information in the coming days how you can bring Equip Ourselves to Save a Life and Craig and the whole NGBN team to your community. If you want to support what we're doing, if you say, Ian, this has been incredible, Craig is doing an amazing job, you want to support first, send a note of thanks to Carf International. Just go to their website, thank them. Then go to Family Farms, buy some bacon wrapped chicken. That's a way to do it. And if you want to thank NGBN, download the app. And you can go to our website, click membership. Go to our website right now, click membership, and you can sign up and get a 1-year membership with NGBN for $99. And that supports this kind of work. We're going to call Craig Hannum, award-winning suicide interventionist and prevention specialist, back in. Craig, come on in. We're going to do one quick question, and then we're going to keep moving on because we got more information to cover. So the question is, if you have a son that's a real loner, seems happy, but has anxiety, depression, and this person said, I never knew how he was feeling inside. How was I to know as a mother that he would attempt one day? So I think that speaks to those subtle indicators.
Yeah, big time. So she mentioned anxiety. Okay, what's depression? What's he anxious about? You know, we're talking about teenagers and teenage boys. We don't talk. You know, and this is hard for a mom to figure out what am I missing? You know, so you had the attempt. That's horrible. But what led up to it? In a few minutes, we're going to be talking about contributing factors. What was going on up to that moment in that dude's life? What was making him anxious? What's making him depressed? What's going on at school? What's going on personally? Is there a relationship issue? You know, those things we talked about, those top 3 reasons. And just sit down directly, look him in the eye and say, son, what's going on? I'm seeing this. I know you have anxiety. Let's talk about it. What's making you more anxious lately? I know you're battling depression. What's making you sadder? You know.
And as a parent, we can't force them to talk, right? Exactly. Sit down and you're going to talk to me right now.
That's not how we do this now. No, it's not a punishment. Again, we don't want to treat it like it's a criminal act. You don't want to say, if you attempt suicide, I'm going to ground you for a month. No, we're not punishing. We're having the conversation, talk to me. I'm your mom. You can trust me. What is it? I will help you. I will get somebody involved in our lives to help us. Because when you have somebody that attempts, we have to help out the entire unit. Whoever was exposed to it. Like we said before, nothing more demoralizing than losing somebody to suicide. Because then we start talking about those contributing factors that led up to it. Most people go, oh, wow, I did notice that. After the fact's too late. And I know, lost Jim. And people right now watching, in the network are probably thinking, yeah, there was that.
There were indications.
It might have been small, really, like in the moment, and then moved on. Yeah. I had a comedian tell me one time, the most depressed person is the comedian on stage. When they overdo it with laughter and humor, et cetera, et cetera. Some people say, well, that's just how I keep my anxiety down. Okay, so you have anxiety. Fantastic. You admitted it. Admitting it is great. Now let's figure out how we can deal with it, because it's a lifelong issue.
Well, we've got a ton more of information, so let's get the microphone back in your hands. Keep your questions coming in. We'll take some questions in about 20, 25 minutes.
Sounds good. Okay. So remember everything that we've learned up to this point. We talked about the top 3 reasons, all those invitations. We went through the behavior model of the iceberg and how we go deeper and deeper with our problems, and the water gets heavier. The issues get heavier, and the pressure around us really starts to squeeze. So let's get to the next chapter. Go ahead, AC. Hold on to this question. You might have been thinking about already. Who is at fault when someone kills himself? That's a tough question. So in the next couple chapters, we're going to talk about all kinds of contributing factors. So let's not answer the question just yet. Everything you're about to see, I have not made up. These have been reasons people have told me in the beginning of a conversation why they're thinking about suicide. So I promise you, I have not made up any of these things, especially one of the chapters you're going to see, excuse me, that has all kinds of reasons on there. So remember, we're talking about contributing factors that they are exposed to in life. And the reason why it's so important to have a conversation you're about to see, and you're going to figure out why you have to ask the hard questions. Go ahead, AC. So let's go through these. People say, my job sucks. I want to kill myself. Okay. What do you do for a living? I'm a police officer. Okay. That's a rough profession. Okay. Why does it suck? Well, it's challenging. There's more bad people out there than there are good people. So the point of view that person's having in that moment, excuse me, is the people they are exposed to on a daily basis. So yes, of course, law enforcement might think that there's more bad people than good, because the people they're exposed to on a daily basis, they're always busting criminals. They're chasing people down. They're arresting people for domestic violence. So they are exposed to a lot of bad things and hate in the world. And quite honestly, show me the perfect job. I love when people say, I have the best job in the world. Probably do. I love this job. I'm very passionate about this subject. Is it hard? It is extremely difficult. So my mental health is very important. I have to voice. So when I talk openly, especially to service members currently serving or veterans, when I say, yeah, I talk to the wizard all the time. Like, you talk to a therapist? Of course I do. Why shouldn't I? I can't do it by myself. I've got a close circle of friends. Had an incident a long time ago with a young lady, 18 years old, high school senior, last week of school. At 2:30, she posts on Facebook, I'm going to kill myself at 3:15 when the bell rings. She's like, oh man, we're on the clock. We have 45 minutes to figure this out. I didn't get notified until about 2:35. So I show up at the high school. It was just down the road. I happened to be in the area. We're trying to figure out, we're calling. And, she was complaining about work, the job that she had. She was a 4.0 student, so she had the pressure of academics. All these things were happening. And when she put, my job sucks, I can't do it anymore, I think I'm going to kill myself at 3:15. That wasn't her only reason, though. That was just one of the contributing factors that she put out there. So when we actually found her, we found her in a bathroom that a lot of the staff in the school didn't even know existed. And there she was. She had a knife, and she was getting ready to open up her wrists. So we stopped her, sat down on the floor with her. I said, how are you? What's going on? She goes, well, my job's horrible. I said, okay. We just kept going deeper in the conversation. I said, okay, is that the only reason why you're thinking about suicide? She goes, no, it's all my friends. I said, oh, wow. Talk to me about that. So we're talking about social media. It used to be social media was the biggest contributing factor to suicide between the ages of 14 to 18. It is now 10 to 18. Social media is very dangerous. It can be dangerous. It's great for information flow. How we're doing this broadcast and all of our social media outlets is important. We're spreading good information. Can it be addictive in nature? Yeah, I get it. People just want to sit there and watch reels all day. So when I said, so it's just your job, and she goes, well, it's all my friends. I said, okay, cool, talk to me about that. She goes, all my friends on Facebook hate me. So when she was getting bullied online, so that was the real reason that was leading to this moment. And then when she started talking about it, about 95% of the people that she followed her, all of her so-called friends, were telling her how to do it. They were sending her videos. They were saying, well, of course you want to kill yourself. You're ugly. You're horrible. You're this. All these negative things in there. There was only about 5 people who were actually looking for her closest friends. So when I found those friends, I was like, tell me what kind of job she does. And she worked at a fast food restaurant. Okay, yeah, that's rough as a teenager. She hated it. She didn't like it. But she was trying to help out her family. But when it got to that social media abuse where she was being bullied online, I said, well, how many people follow you? And she, I think the number was like 1,500 plus. And I was like, oh, those are your friends. She's like, yeah. I said, well, let me tell you who your friends are. The ones who were looking for you, the ones who were calling you, the ones who called me, the ones who called your parents, so on and so on. I said, everybody else out there, those aren't your friends. She goes, yes, they are. Because that's how she validated her self-worth. In a couple of chapters, we're going to get deep into the roots about what self-worth should be and is for some people. So I said, okay, so all these people are your friends? She's like, yeah. I said, name them. She's like, what? I was like, name all these people that follow you. She's like, I don't know. I said, exactly. My point with this in life, if you go through life and you can count who's important to you on both hands, you're doing pretty good. The people you love and trust the most. Sometimes you have to go to our toes. That's still a good circle of trust right there. So yes, a job can be very difficult. It can be a contributing factor to suicidal behavior. So let's go to that next category. We're talking about those who are in charge of you at work. Is everybody subordinate to somebody else? Yeah, that's life. There's somebody that we report to. There's a boss. There's leadership. Years ago, the military spent a lot of money trying to figure out how to get rid of toxic leaders in the military. By the end of the year, they published their findings. In the beginning of the next year, guess what happened? More toxic leaders got promoted. So when people say, I'm going to kill myself because my boss is a horrible human being. Okay, you're going to kill yourself because of someone else and how they are at work. Yes. Tell me why. What is this person doing to you? See how you get the conversation going? Because too often, especially with men, let's say, John is a horrible freaking foreman. I can't stand that dude. What do we typically do? Yeah, he sucks. And we move on. That was an invitation. See how this changes the narrative when it comes to this talk of suicide prevention? Okay, why do you think John's a horrible person? And why are you always talking bad about John? Why are you always complaining about John? Did he do something to you? There might be something there. I think everybody should be approachable. Even if you are an introvert, you're still approachable in some way. Had a commander years ago, a captain, and he said, I have an open door policy. Make sure you guys understand that. Well, his open door policy, according to him, was by appointment only. So that's not an open door policy. He actually had a clipboard outside his office where you could sign up to talk to him throughout the day. So a young soldier comes in the morning and says, hey, sir, I need to talk to you. I got something real going on. And he did. He had something very major happening in his life that was attacking him very personally. He says, well, did you check the clipboard? He's like, well, the only time you're available, sir, is at the end of the day at like 3 o'clock. He goes, cool. Your problem that you have now will still be a problem at 3 o'clock. See you then. Didn't happen. Soldier took his life. And the commander at the time, because he was so arrogant, said, well, here's why he did it, because of this person and that person. Well, sadly, the commander was actually a contributing factor, because what did I do? I just created a barrier to communication. You know what the worst barrier to communication is lately? Is name generational demographics. Generation X, Gen Z, all that jazz, millennials. I had a person tell me a long time ago, the reason why we have problems in the world today is because of all the millennials. I'm like, wow. You just created a barrier to communication, and you put a blanket statement out there that says all millennials are horrible people, and that's why we have problems in the world today. No, that's not accurate. So let's avoid that. So the next category, right? This is going to be awesome. We're going to go deep in this. You ready? Can you put that back up for me there, AC? Thank you, sir. Your kids. I had a dad. He had teenagers. And he said, my kids are the worst teenagers in the world. Guess what I said? Because I'm that guy. I was like, good job, Dad. That's on you, pal. They're your kids. If they're horrible, fix what you're doing or what you're not doing. Are there bad parents out there? Yes. There are bad parents out there. But when you say, I'm going to take my life because my kids are horrible, that is on you as a parent. Maybe you do have bad kids. How did you raise them? Okay, so is that rational for that person? Perhaps. Let's keep going. How about in-laws and extended family? Oh, I love this. So anybody that's married out there, chances are you have an in-law to deal with. And if mine's listening, Angie, she's the best in-law in the world, just so you guys know, okay? Yes, I will pay her money when I get home. But why is she great? Because we talk, we can communicate. I pick on her a lot. You know, she communicates with me. Are there challenges with in-laws? Yes. In extended family, and here's why. They are not with you 24/7 like your spouse or in your immediate family. And then you bring in an outside opinion, and they always have an outside opinion, right? You always have that one aunt that says, well, the house is always dirty. No, it's not. It's nice and clean, but it's just not up to your standards. I'm so sorry. Forgive me. When does this usually become a problem for somebody that's compromised and they're thinking about suicide? The holidays. Because the holidays can be a stressful time. And all of a sudden, the aunt and uncle who we really don't like decide to show up all of a sudden. Now we got to deal with that added issue because you have to entertain, you have to make sure they're okay. If you've ever hosted a party, did you ever enjoy your party that you were hosting? Most cases, no, because you're making sure that everyone else is good to go. So yes, that's another contributing factor is in-laws, extended family, etc. Now let's look at that next category. Got to be careful with this one, right? Because we're broadcasting live. The president, politicians, past presidents, past politicians, etc. Had a young person tell me, if Trump, and this is years ago when Trump got elected president, if Trump gets elected president, I'm going to kill myself. I'm like, wow, okay. That's quite the statement. Why? Like, what do you mean why? Well, you just said you're going to kill yourself. Well, I'm not really going to kill myself. I'm just talking in extremes. See why it's important to have the conversation? You got to be, I need the answer that makes sense here. Because if they said, yes, I'm definitely going to kill myself if Trump gets elected president, and here's why. And they start listing these reasons. Okay, I understand what you're saying. You know, how many people have actually met a president? You're going to kill yourself because of somebody else? I had soldiers who were deployed saying, I can't believe Congress sent us here to do this. I'm like, what are you going to do? You're going to sue Congress because you're getting shot at? It's not how life works. Why do you want to kill yourself? I don't like the president. I don't like this politician. Horrible leader. Got elected to office. When that person told me that, I asked, I said, well, if you don't mind me asking, who'd you vote for? Well, I'm a Republican. I have to stay loyal. I was like, okay, all right. So you voted for the person. Now you're going to kill yourself because they got elected. Wow, you should have changed your vote. Go deep in the conversation. And it wasn't because of who was in office. There was other issues going on. And when you put somebody on the spot like that, and you put the accountability back on them, you say, you want to kill yourself? Because, well, no. That's not what I meant. Okay, well, tell me exactly what you meant. Because these words, we can't just hear them and take them lightly. Figure out why they said that. Medication. Is it possible that specifically, say, antidepressants, can they create suicidal behavior where they didn't exist before? Yes. You guys love the commercials like I do. I love watching the commercials and they come out the latest drug that's going to fix whatever ailment you have, say like with your kidneys. You're not going to have this problem with your kidneys anymore. You'll be able to go to the bathroom with ease. It's going to be great. However, the side effects are possibly anal leakage, numbness in the left side of your body, blindness in one eye. You may not hear for 6 to 8 hours, All these side effects. And you get the sheet from your doctor and it says the benefits far outweigh the side effects of this medication. Here's my point with this. There are medicines out there that are important to sustain life. I get that. If you are clinically diagnosed with a mental health issue, you might get prescribed medications. Have an honest conversation with your provider. Hey, can we do a blood workup? Make sure, chemically it's going to work out for me. Can we do a physiological workup? Just be blunt and honest with them. Say, hey, I'm worried about this medicine and here's why. Because not all medications work, especially when it comes to antidepressants. The first one may not work. I would talk to parents about this all the time. So I had a parent who said, my kid won't sit still. He's bouncing off the walls. It's driving me insane. I'm like, well, he's 5. It'd be weird if he wasn't. What most parents would do is, let me medicate. I'm going to subdue your actions, your thoughts, everything else, so you are not driving me crazy. What did we just do? We said, I don't want to be a parent. I'm going to create a babysitter medically. And people say, well, I'm going to kill myself because my doctor's horrible. I hear this a lot from veterans that had to deal with the VA. And the VA is getting a lot better. They're getting a lot better with care for our veterans. Our health, however, as an individual, is my responsibility. I have to voice my concerns. I have to get on the phone. Are we going to wait for an appointment? Yes, guys, let's be honest. Here's a fact. There will never be enough providers or clinicians in the mental health arena, doctors, etc., it will never be enough to fill the need and the demand that we have. All right, this next chapter is going to blow your mind. You ready? Look at these. Let's just take a moment and just kind of look at this for a second. I'm going to kill myself because there's Greenpeace people out there. My daily routine. I would always tell people, especially when I was military police, do not come to work and say the word routine. Nothing's routine. There's always going to be interruptions. Yes, there is a pattern. There's a rhythm that we get into. But the moment you succumb to say it's routine, you're going to think that every day is always going to be like this. It'll always be routine. It's driving me insane. So try to avoid that thinking. Now, normally when I have an audience in here, I'll say, hey, somebody pick one of the categories and I will tell you a story. Again, I'm not making any of these up. I didn't just put them up because I thought it'd be colorful. No. The one question I always get is about Elvis. Yes, I had a soldier. Every time he heard Elvis music, he becomes suicidal. He even told his wife of many years, never play Elvis when I'm home. But guess what? He never told her why. So he gets back from a deployment. It was a short deployment, but for him, it was a violent deployment. He didn't know when he was getting back. So when he got back, he's walking through the threshold of his door, about to surprise his wife. She had no idea when he was coming back. Elvis is blasting as she's cleaning and doing her thing. So instead of going to her and saying, hey, honey, I'm home, he walks past her. She sees him walk past her. He goes right to the bedroom, opens up the safe, puts the gun to his head, and then she smacks it out of his hands. She's like, what are you doing? And then I get the phone call. So I'm sitting down with this guy. And we're talking about a talented soldier, Purple Heart, Bronze Star, brilliant on the battlefield, amazing leader, highly intelligent. I said, brother, what is going on? He goes, well, she was playing Elvis. I was like, so Elvis makes you suicidal? He goes, yes. I said, well, why? He goes, I don't want to talk about it. I said, yeah, I don't care. I love it when people say, Craig, I don't want to talk about it. That's my biggest invitation. I get excited when people say, leave me alone. I don't want to talk about it. I'm going to follow you. I'm like, no, we're going to talk about this. You know, we had that conversation, that question that came up. How do you force the conversation? That's what's delicate about this, the double-edged sword concept. You have to just be open-minded with open-ended questions and say, talk to me. I know what's going on. So I said, brother, tell me about Elvis. He goes, well, it's embarrassing. I said, I'm sure. He goes, well, it's painful to talk about. Okay. He goes, what's my trigger? I said, I get it. Being exposed to your trigger is healthy. Remember that. People say, I can't get exposed to my trigger. No, these are healthy. So we started talking. He's getting emotional. His knee starts just dancing. So I know we're on the cusp of figuring out what happened here, what led him up to that point. Because that's the best part about prevention. If you identify all these contributing factors up to that point, that's good. We stopped it. We're intervening. We're preventing. And then we had the postvention part we're going to talk about in a minute. So when he started opening up, he's getting emotional. He starts to cry. That's right, brother. What happened? And like you saw when we were describing with Ian, I just leaned in. I got close to him, put my hand on his shoulder. I was like, brother, talk to me. And he says, well, I was 16 years old. Got back from school. Elvis was playing really loud. My mom was dead on the floor because she shot herself in the head. So my question to you is this. Is that a rational trigger for him? Yes. And when you first saw those, our first instinct is like, what, you're kidding me, Elvis? Hold on, you're going to kill yourself because people own trucks? Hold on, you want to kill yourself because, the rainforest is being decimated. I had a young lady tell me that. She goes, I'm going to kill myself because the rainforest is being decimated. I was like, okay, have you ever been to Brazil or the rainforest? And she says, no. I said, okay, tell me what's really going on. Remember? Go deep in the conversation. That was just what they said. But all those contributing factors that you saw in there are real to them. And here's my point with this. You're going to love it. Go ahead, AC. Ready? Here is the mental grenade inside your head. Your perception is never their reality. How we see what's going on is what's not happening. We go back to that iceberg, right? Remember that red line? I said, this is what I'm going to show you because this is what I want you to see. This is what I'm comfortable with you seeing or feeling, whatever it might be. Our perception is never their reality because it opens up judgment. So we probably saw all those indicators and contributing factors. We'll judge. So I said that one time in a class years ago. I said, you know what? We as a human society, we do judge other people. Lady stands up. She was very offended. She puts her hand up. She goes, Craig, I don't judge. I'm Christian. I was like, awesome. I said, okay, thank you for adding that. I said, did you have a question? She goes, no, I'm just telling you, I don't judge people. I said, okay, I believe you. Guess what she did? She goes, but this dude right here needs Jesus. I said, thank you. You just illustrated the point. Why did she say that? Because he's nervous and he was saying things under his breath like, I hate this. I hate going through this class. I hate this training. And her response was, you need Jesus. Maybe he did. I don't know. But he was uncomfortable with sitting in a suicide prevention class again because he had just lost somebody recently. And isn't that the worst thing in the world? You lose somebody, and now you're forced to take this training because in the military it's mandatory. And you don't want to sit through a class with a bunch of people and strangers you don't know, listening and hearing everything that you missed because we feel like it's our fault. So remember that question I asked? Who is at fault when someone kills himself? The individual that did it. Now, for those of you who lost people, remember I've lost people too. I'm not being insensitive, but they took their life. They did it. If they didn't, it's something else. Act of God, illness, natural disaster, a car accident, whatever it might be. The only person that is at fault is the person who took their life. And I've read many letters and listed all these reasons why they want to do it. Those are all just contributing factors because at that moment when they took their life, we do not know why. So don't try to beat yourself up answering the why. It'll just haunt you forever. That demon will never leave your mind and your heart because to this day you want to know, why did you do it? Why did you do it? We have a pretty good idea of what led them to that point, but we don't know why. Let's go to the next chapter, AC. So we got to talk about fear. Everybody is afraid of something. People say, I'm afraid of spiders, okay? I'm afraid of heights, claustrophobic. I'm afraid of talking in front of people. Whatever their fear is, those are rational fears. The fear that they're feeling in that moment when they're compromised and think about suicide, remember, that's a rational fear for them. For others, they might say, Elvis, are you kidding me? No way. Not to the individual. And here's why they're afraid, because we are creating we are amplifying the fear in our minds. And why is this so important? This has to do with, I went and got treatment, or I said it out loud. Yes, I'm thinking about suicide. And now the fear that is embedded is, how are people going to accept me when I get back? Say I had to go to see a clinician or to a facility for a few days, a couple months, whatever it might be, a few hours. They go to the ER, they get evaluated. A clinician says, hey, I understand what's going on. We had a good talk. Are you still feeling suicidal? No, they get released. However long that duration of intervention lasts. Now they get back to their typical life. They come back home. So especially with men, your dad, your husband, you're the breadwinner, you're the leader. According to the IRS, you're head of household. But now you just made it very clear that you are so vulnerable and you're thinking about taking your life because of all these contributing factors in your life. I'll never get accepted again. They won't call me dad. I'll be feared. We're creating this in our mind. It's a horrible place to be. What if they are somebody very senior in their organization? Am I going to be respected as a leader? Are the people who work for me, going to take me? Am I going to get put in the corner and just be out of sight, out of mind? Think about that. You come back from treatment, see now you're medicated, the medication's working. And we've had people, and this is why the postvention is so important, we've had people overreact when the loved one comes back. If they're back, they just got taught new skills, new coping mechanisms. Their life and social coping skills have been increased. They know how to deal with stuff. We've identified their triggers. We've talked real about trauma. We've opened up, and now we're ready to move on. Help them move on. Because the overreacting happens like this. They'll ask every 5 minutes, are you okay? Are you okay? Are you okay? How you doing? Are you okay? Would that drive somebody crazy? Yes. Yes. Let's be honest. Every 5 to 8 minutes, someone in my organization is asking me if I'm okay. First thing you do when you wake up in the morning, you're making coffee, your child walks in, are you okay? Are you fine? Oh my God, I'm so sorry. And then people around them will walk on eggshells. Oh, I'm sorry, did that trigger you? With a conversation, watching a movie, whatever it might be. Treat them the same. Guide them along. You're going to pay attention more naturally. Here's the best side effect when it comes to this training. There's going to be a positive causality across America, the globe perhaps, in the communities that we're going to get into. Here's the positive causality when we're talking about this subject. There will be an increase in reporting, but a reduction in attempts and loss. That's a good thing. Now, to all the mental health providers out there listening, I'm sorry. Open up your calendar. Maybe you should adopt a 36-hour workday so you can meet the demand of the people that are about to flood your office. But that's a good thing. That is a positive causality when we're talking about suicide prevention. And if they say, I am afraid, tell me why you're afraid. What is it that scares you? Because what I've heard in my experience is, I'm afraid I'm going to try it again. Go on to that next chapter. Assumptions are very dangerous. We're talking about our assumptions. So you're sitting there thinking about people you have lost. Maybe you can go back to that moment when you got that call. He's gone. I'm so sorry, we lost him. He killed himself. So assumptions, what created us? No way. It's the toughest dude I know. He would never think about suicide. He's the strongest leader in the world. He's awesome. And then people who are already vulnerable, like Ian and I were talking, I'm already struggling, for example, and now that person who I looked up to is the strongest, toughest person I know. What chance do I have? So we got to be careful about that. They are thinking so many things about how I screwed up. What did I miss? Get rid of your assumptions. They're dangerous. They create a barrier of communication. You want to know why? To make ourselves feel better. Toughest guy I know. Doc would never do that. Because what did I just do? I told myself, he's not. Therefore, I don't have to deal with it, and I can move on with the rest of my life. These are very dangerous. What do you think the worst assumption somebody under duress makes? What do you think it is? Go ahead, AC. Let's show them. I'm better off dead. Are you? I don't know. I have no idea. People say, well, like a terminal illness, for example. What do we say? One of our assumptions. We're at the funeral, the service, wherever it might be. We will say things like, they're in a better place. They're not suffering anymore. Is that an assumption? Yes. Because do we really know? No. And I'm not trying to beat down anybody's faith and belief system. People would always ask me, well, you don't think they're in a better place, Craig? I don't know. Well, they're in heaven. Okay. Are they? I don't know. I'm not there. I don't have an escalator that goes to heaven and say, hey, how are we doing up here? Hey, St. Peter, how's it going? Am I still going to get in? All right. How's my file? Is it bad? I don't know. So people say, well, what would you say to God? Or people who are very devout in certain religions where suicide is taboo. You'll be in purgatory for the rest of your life. So this is just a little anecdote I use when people say, well, what would you ask God? It's a pretty good question. I don't need to know the mysteries of the universe. I don't need to know who killed JFK. I don't need to know if there's aliens, et cetera, et cetera. It start with a big bang. That's not my worry. And it goes down to having the conversation on what's important to the individual. What's important to me is, God, why mosquitoes? Where's the value in that? It's the only reason why I want to know. Why did you create mosquitoes? There's no benefit. You see my point with that? Let's go to the next chapter. Excuse me. Isn't that horrible? So as we've been doing this and throwing out advertisements, you guys have been seeing them, the little digital advertisements we're doing. And a shout out to Jason Johnson. He's brilliant. He put all this stuff together. He and I just had a conversation for about an hour, and he took copious notes in the situations I've been involved in and used that as advertising tools for this today. That Post-it note was actually a real incident. Had a soldier, Pensacola, Florida, got caught doing something he shouldn't have been doing. It was very bad. He was messing around with one of the trainees, and he got caught. And he was supposed to see the commander at 9 o'clock. Instead, he leaves around 6 o'clock. Nobody could find him for at least 3 hours. He left a Post-it note on the door to his wife saying, honey, I love you. I will always love you. Do not open the door. Call the police. Guess what she did? She opened the door, and she found him in the foyer. Self-inflicted gunshot wound. Why? Because he got in trouble. He got caught. He just had to face the music. That's the best. That's the contributing factor we figured out. Do I really know why he did it in that split second? No. But think about this chapter when we talk about it just kills the memory of them. You want to know why? Because the last thing you're going to think about is, especially if you saw it, especially if they did it right in front of you. I've had people do it right in front of me. That's horrible. But the last thing you're going to think about is they took their life. Instead of, wow, what a great life he had. All these things, all these great memories. Because mentally and psychologically, the last thing we want to think about is the last tragedy that happened with them. They took their life. Don't kill their memory. Don't let that be the last memory. If we call funerals nowadays celebrations of life, continue to celebrate the life. It is horrible that we lost people. I get it. But don't let that last memory be the only memory. Go ahead, AC. Here's another good question. So if you're at watch parties, all of you will have a different opinion. Do you think it's a selfish act? It depends how it affects you. Those 183, I didn't know all of them personally. I know who they were. The ones that hit me hard, yeah. In that moment, I'm like, how selfish. And why do we think like this sometimes? Because everybody that has to deal with suicide after the fact is everybody else. the family, friends, because it's an unanswered issue. I don't know why you did it. So it's okay if you go back and forth. And the best part about this is, go ahead, AC, and when we're talking about trauma, it doesn't age. Remember we talked about childhood issues, and we're in our adult years now? Trauma does not age. It doesn't have an expiration date. It can be just as fresh in your mind the second it happened to you years later. Go ahead, AC. Find out what gives them self-worth. It should be something existing already in their life. Remember, we don't want to oversell. We don't want to overcommit. I'll take you to Disneyland if you don't kill yourself today. Can we make that promise? Can we follow through on that commitment? Probably not. Don't overcommit. Find out what gives them purpose. Remember the story I told you? I usually keep my phone out of sight, out of mind. But I opened it up to the soldier. I said, look, here's the people who care about you. This is your self-worth. And I even asked him, I said, do they give you purpose in your world, in your life? He's like, yes. I said, cool. Find out what it is for them. It should be something positive. Go ahead, AC. So how do we get rid of this issue? Well, we got to change culture. So a brilliant man by the name of Peter Senge wrote a book called The Fifth Discipline. And it talks about being a learning organization, meaning pay attention to your surroundings, pay attention to your family members, pay attention to your coworkers, exploit their strengths and weaknesses. That way we have this cool shared collaboration. We're all on the same page. I'm taking talent and making them better. They're making me better. I was told this years ago by a very brilliant general. Surround yourself with people who are better at everything than you. That way you're always consistently and constantly learning. Be a learning organization. What do you think the worst thing in the world we created as a human society? I get all kinds of answers. People say it was the atomic bomb, okay? People say guns, all right? Electricity, social media, digital, phones, whatever it might be. All these things, in my opinion, based on my experience, and only because discrimination is a massive and a huge contributing factor to suicidal behavior, is racism. We created it. Animals didn't create racism. We as a human society created racism. It's horrible. When you're filling out demographics and you're filling out your culture, your background, white, Asian, black, etc., be proud of that stuff. Be proud of that criteria in your life. Don't let your culture die. In my opinion, there should only be one question on there with two possible answers. Are you human? Yes or no, so we can move on. We got to get rid of it. Discrimination. And we're talking about discrimination for all kinds of things. You drive a Ford truck. You're a horrible person. Chevy's better. It's not true. Ford is better. You're a different race than me. You're a different sex than me. You like the Dallas Cowboys, which sometimes I get at Dallas Cowboy fans beyond hope because you're always thinking that Super Bowl is your year. That's okay. It's a different subject. We discriminate all the time about issues. My friend, Dr. Connolly, he's a Yankee fan. Does he need therapy? Yes. Because I'm a Red Sox fan. Do I discriminate against him? No. We have very spirited debates about it, which I lost yesterday, by the way, just so you guys know. Go ahead, go to that next slide. But we created racism. So our protective factors, what we mean by is what is in your life that's positive, that's healthy, that you use to maintain your resiliency and keep yourself upbeat. And when you have a challenge, you can go back to it. All these cool categories here. You can go back to those at any point in your life. Say, you know what, I need to open up to you guys about something because I have good friends. They trust me. I trust them. They're not going to judge me. Sometimes maybe, but not in the point where, hey, I'm feeling kind of suicidal and here's why. Okay, cool. Let's put a circle of trust around you. These are all good reasons. And this isn't, an inclusive list. One person asked that, hey, what do you mean by unorthodox methods? Every time I lost somebody to suicide, I would find a mountain. I'd go to the top of that mountain, stand on a cliff, and scream. I would just shout at the mountain. Is the mountain therapy? No, but I had to let it out. And you just hear that echo resonate in the valley. That's an unorthodox method. That's what I mean. And I had a guy recently, former Marine, lost a buddy of his, told him the same thing. His unorthodox method on how to keep the demons at bay, he would call me and say, hey man, can we just toss the ball around, play catch? Sure. That's, a couple, 2-3 hours out of the day. It's not a lot. Playing catch, 2 grown men tossing a baseball around. That was his unorthodox method to stay safe. Let's go to that next one. So the high risk factors are things existing in a person's life that increases the suicidal behavior because these are kind of negative in a way. So yes, if they've been suicidal before, is there a possibility that they could return to that behavior? Yes. It's no different if you've had a heat injury or an extreme cold injury. You're more susceptible to those elements because of that. It doesn't mean they're going to be suicidal. If they've had an attempt and survived, that is awesome. That is a learning experience. I had another great leader in my life who said, when you train to your highest, fullest capacity, make mistakes, screw things up. You want to know why? If nobody dies, it's not catastrophic, it's training. That's life. That way, when the real situation hits you, you know how to deal with it because you have been trained. So people who have survived suicide attempts, one, glad you're still here. They have resiliency. Doesn't mean they're going to go back to it. And you look at those other factors there, medical problems. Elderly suicide is on the rise because of terminal illness. So I had a family say, hey, I can't believe they took their life. I was like, well, they had terminal cancer. I've never had terminal cancer. I have no idea. So in a few minutes, or really quick, we're going to show you a video. All right? And I know we're getting close to our time. This video is only 4 minutes long. So it's kind of graphic, and it depicts a gentleman battling his demon. Okay? Ask yourself this question. What would you name the demon he's battling? All right? Make sure your volume's up. You're going to love this. Go ahead, AC.
You know, she's my older sister. She seemed very, very cool to me. You know, she understood the world a lot better than I did. My judgment and my rating of her coolness was so overinflated. When Tanya came back one time, she had this piece of art homework to draw a monster, and she didn't want to do it at all. She told me, you have to do my homework. And I totally did it, you know, just anything to be around her. She actually needed me, needed my abilities. It was really special for me. Last June, Tanya committed suicide. I didn't know how to deal with it, so I wrote her this letter. I still wanted to help. Dear Tanya, I love you. I wish I could tell you that it'd be okay. That you didn't have to be alone. Because we all get knocked down. We all face bad things. I wish I could have told you to fight through it. But I didn't. I wish I told you you'd be happy. And that there's a reason for the pain. But I didn't. Missing you really hurts. And I try and fight it. But it doesn't go away. It's like a monster. It keeps showing up to remind me that you're gone. I want it to stop, but it never will. That's not its job. Maybe it's my fault that I don't have a sister anymore. Because I wasn't there to show you. If you look at it right, even hell can be pretty. Every hit has a reason. Even yours. I didn't tell you what I should have. So I'll tell everyone else. So that one tragedy to one person can forge a message that can do a lot of good for a lot of people. Stand your ground. See the hits for what they really are. A blacksmith who through fire and trauma can turn the broken into the amazing. Something that doesn't just take the hits, but something that hits back. For anybody hurting like she was, use the pain. Like good comes from bad. It'll hurt. The hits will never stop. They'll only get tougher. But so will you. And hopefully someday, I will too.
Very gripping, powerful. So what would you name the demon? Most people would tell me it's shame, regret, guilt. That's what he's battling to this day. Lost his older sister. The dialogue, letter he wrote to her after the fact. So yeah, that's powerful. So before we get ready to close, I know we have another good question, Ian. Oh, all right, far out.
Have a great question. Came in. It says, please ask Craig to help us know the difference between when to call 988, the suicide lifeline, national, both in Canada and the United States, or 911.
Oh, that's a good question. Yeah, so here's the difference in simple terms. Say you're talking to somebody and you're talking to them on the phone. I say, yes, I'm feeling suicidal. Okay, I'm on my way. I'm coming over. Don't come over because I have a gun in my lap. That's a 911 call. You know, especially if you're not comfortable having that conversation with somebody armed. That's when you call 911. 988 is, hey, it's a resource. If you can't get a hold of me for whatever reason, please call these guys. Put me down as an emergency contact for you. You know, that way, if there's an attempt and they're unconscious, like, oh my gosh, call Craig. It says right here, call Craig. You know, so 988 is a fantastic resource. You know, it's easy. You call them. You're going to talk to somebody. But guess what that person's doing, though? They're listening. They're doing everything we talked about, and they're notifying people wherever you are. And that's a good thing. You guys have probably seen that video where the cop does a traffic stop. The guy's on the side of the road, and he walks up to me, hey, brother, what's going on? And it was a veteran, and he's sobbing. He's crying. He's like, I'm on the phone with the suicide hotline right now. He's like, oh, man, what's going on? Let me help you. When he first approached the car, he had his hand on his sidearm. You know, it's his safety. Immediately, he just stopped, puts his hands in the window, opens the door, sits down with him, talks to him. You know, so that's a good thing. So that's when you call 988. It's a great resource. They're great people. 911 is life is in danger. It's
life-threatening.
Life-threatening, imminent danger, call 911. But explain to 911 what you're dealing with. Sent me this text. Remember, we talked about those details. The slightest detail could be that one thing somebody can use to keep them safe for now. That's the suicide first aid. Hope that answered that question.
That was an answer to the question, and we have come to the end of our time.
We did. Yeah.
You know, I think I have gotten at least 60 messages of the quality, the care, number of people talking about they can see the care and love that you have come through. As we wrap up and we bring this to a close, what are your final comments to those that have shown up today? They wanted to get equipped. What are your final comments to them as we wrap up?
Get ready for that uncomfortable conversation. It's going to be hard. It's going to be difficult. You're going to ask, are you suicidal? They're going to say yes, and now it's going to be shocking for you. Have the conversation. Keep it going. Keep them talking. Get them to a higher level care. That's the goal.
That's awesome. Everybody that's here, can we give Craig a big round of applause, please? There you go. Thank you very much, my friend. Well done. So here's what I need you guys to do, if you would please. One, we're going to do this broadcast again in 1 hour. And that broadcast is more for people on the West Coast because it's 8 o'clock here in LA. When those events are posted on social media, Twitter and LinkedIn and Facebook, now that you know what this training is, now that you've experienced, will you do us a favor? Go to those events and share them. Invite people. Go through your contact list, invite people now that you know what it is. That's number one. So we can have more people equipped with these tools. Number two, this afternoon, this will be uploaded for on-demand viewing on our platform, NGBN-TV, on Roku and Amazon and Android devices, Google Play, all of that. You're going to be able to come back to this information over and over again. Later this afternoon, you're going to be able to go to NGBN-TV and to that Save a Life, and there's going to be a handout for you so that you can take that graphic and put it on your phone, because the information that Craig provided today is incredible. But we know that this kind of information fades over time. So we want you to download that graphic so it's on your phone in the moment. A month from now, 3 months from now, 8 months from now, a year from now, when you need to recall that information, you're going to be able to go to your phone and there it is. It'll help you go through. And if you're not able to do that, you can always go into the app. On Monday, you'll be able to go into our app and a summary of the steps that you need to take to ACE, right, Craig? To ACE, to ask and to care and to escort That summary will be actually in the NGBN on your app, on your mobile device, or on your Roku and the like. Why? To give you a reminder. If this was powerful to you, if it made a difference in your life, if it gave you tools in your toolkit, you're going to be able to bring Equip Ourselves to Save a Life to your community. To your community. You're going to be able to go on Monday, put in your application to bring this to your community. As we wrap up, we want to thank our partners. CARF International, Dr. Conley's here. We appreciate the words that he spoke. He thanked you for your participation. We thank them for their support and the work that they do all around the world. Thank you to Family Farms. Go to Family Farms LLC, familyfarmsllc.com, familyfarmsllc.com. Phenomenal product. And we want to thank individuals like Amy and Crystal that stood with us financially and helped us pull this off. We're going to be live again in 54 minutes, broadcasting this again. You'll be able to share it. You'll be able to watch it. Thank you to all the watch parties all around the world, from North Carolina to Africa, to all Canada, on the east coast of Canada. Thank you for participating. Mostly, thank you as individuals for taking the time to lighten the burden of your fellow man and equip yourselves to save a life. I'm Ian Hill with NGBN-TV. Thank you for tuning in. Take care, everybody.